What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It's your boy, Adam Perez. Welcome back to a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC, along with television and movie news, streaming live for you guys today. We got 6 incredible topics as we're going to dive into some brand new DCU announcements. That's right, we got ourselves a brand new DC series. We even have Nathan Fillion talking a little bit about his role in Gardner and really how it's expanding along the DCU. We also got some future updates in regards to possibly some Marvel television news for you guys. Some Star Wars is in the news today and so much more. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Hero Report. It is your host, Adam Perez, rocking solo dolo today. It is just myself here. Stuart, unfortunately, is not able to join us. I actually don't think I have Stuart for the next couple of days. I don't think he's going to be here for the Let's Talk Movies segment tomorrow either. So doing a little bit of heavy lifting here today, but it's not something that we've had problems with before in the past. So we're going to be talking about some incredible topics here for you guys, wrapping up your weekend. And then later on today, your boy's got his first fantasy football draft of this season. I'm really excited to go ahead and kick things off. Maybe not as prepared as I certainly would like to be going into this season, but we'll definitely go ahead and certainly make it work. But thank you everybody for certainly joining me here today. Definitely appreciate you guys. It's been a long week around here, to certainly say the least. But we got some incredible topics that we're going to be talking about here for you guys today. Getting to some honorable mentions to kick off the show, and then our main topics before tackling live viewer questions. If you do want to submit a live viewer question, go over to our YouTube channel, click on the post tab, and you should be able to find our live viewer questions post. You can go ahead and submit that over at any particular point in time during the show. And then, of course, we'll get to your guys' live viewer questions at the end. But yeah, looking forward to later on tonight. We've got Lanterns episode number 2. I was a big fan of Lanterns episode 1 last week. If you missed it, we are doing live reviews for Lanterns for you guys. Check in with us every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. Central Time, and we'll be talking the newest episode of Lanterns. But last week was really great, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they have in store for us for episode number 2. If you've had the opportunity to check out Lanterns, please go ahead and do so. What have I been up to this week? I did go and see Tony last night, the Anthony Bourdain sort of origin movie, if you will. Had a great time with that film. I'll talk a little bit about it on Monday for you guys also. I'm going to see if I can catch a second film today. We'll see how gracious the girlfriend is if she allows me to go out and see another movie. But we'll definitely see what's on the on my AMC stubs list to see what's available to catch in theaters as of right now. But how's everybody's week been going so far? Anything big in the news that you hope we talk about or want to bring to my attention? Remember, as we go through these topics, these are simply just my A-plus opinions, but I always want to go ahead and know yours. So please let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below. And especially because of the fact that I'm just rocking solo dolo here today, as I go through these topics and I start giving my thoughts, I would love for you guys to chime in. Let me know what you feel about these topics or some of the stories that we talk about to kind of open up some conversation and discussion pieces around here today. So I definitely appreciate everybody's participation. I got my coffee in hand here today, my Spider-Man Rogues Gallery, along with supporting characters here. It does turn around to the opposite side. I don't know if you guys can see, we got the Shocker, Doc Ock over here, some really great classic Spider-Man designs. Even Miles Morales is on here, and Spider-Gwen. One of my favorite cups. I don't really use it so much on lives anymore, just because my coffee gets cold relatively quickly. Also want to shout out to Kiki and Luca in the chat. They wind up attending D23 as of, was it last weekend, the weekend before? Yeah, it had to be last week. they went ahead and sent me a bunch of great goodies from the D23 for me and my son. So thank you very much, Kiki and Luca. I definitely appreciate it. I got the package yesterday or the day before. Some really cool stuff, some Onward stuff, some cool Star Wars Starfighter pin, which I saw that. I went ape shit. Really cool stuff. So I appreciate you thinking about the channel and sending that stuff out during your travels to D23. Much appreciated. But let's go ahead and give some love and shout out to people that are in the live chat as we go through today's topics here. And remember, if you want to submit a live viewer question, certainly feel free to do so. Ricky Perez, what's up, Ricky Perez? Hey, Adam, I just saw Toy Story 5 on digital, and I can't wait for the Blu-ray release on September 22nd. I still have not seen Toy Story 5. I need to go. We were doing a little bit of a Toy Story marathon here in the house. I tapped out after Toy Story 3. I believe they went on to finish watching Toy Story 4, and I've still to this day, I've never watched Toy Story 4. So I'm going to have to sit down and watch it on my own one day. Ricky Press says also Disney's National Treasure 3 is in development at Walt Disney Studios. I hadn't heard that before, but I'll try and see if I can find a reliable source with that information. Also, the Countdown to Avengers Doomsday official podcast will be coming soon to Disney Plus ahead of the release in December. Very cool. Very cool. I know that I believe they released like a viewing order or like must watches in order to to follow along to prepare for Avengers Doomsday. I wonder if the official podcast will talk a little bit about that also. That is something I would not mind revisiting. It's been a while since I've done a rewatch of a ton of previous phase movies. I did a bunch of that leading up into Avengers Endgame, but it's been a minute since I've done a really significant rewatch of the MCU. So maybe in preparation for Avengers Doomsday movie wise, maybe I'll go down the timeline and watch some of the movies they suggested. There are some movies that are missing off of their suggested timeline that I find kind of disturbing, like the Marvels is nowhere on their recommended watches, which is kind of crazy considering the fact that Monica Rambeau literally went to another universe that is the X-Men's universe. And I know we've got Miss Marvel herself that is in fact a mutant. So I'm kind of surprised that the Marvels is not included on that timeline. There's a couple other ones that kind of took me by surprise, but I'm looking forward to it regardless. I am kind of doing my own other Avengers Doomsday prep in the form of comic books. I'm actually currently rereading the Jonathan Hickman run on the Avengers, starting with the #1 issue of his run for the Avengers and New Avengers. I'm working my way through the Infinity crossover and then diving into the Time Runs Out stuff before getting into Secret Wars. So from a comic book standpoint, I'm definitely doing some prepping there. If you want to follow along with my journey for that, follow us on our TikTok page at Hero Report. I think I'm going to start doing like Avenger Doomsday preps and do them by parts and really just start talking and discussing about some of the comics that I'm currently reading. So if you want to follow me for Avengers prep on the comic side, check us out over on our Hero Report page. Ricky Perez says after the release of Spider-Man Brand New Day, Disney Plus will release both Spider-Man Far From Home and No Way Home September 4th. Are they not on Disney Plus? I got to imagine they're on Disney Plus for people to actually view and watch. We got Blossom in the house. What's up, Blossom? Good to see you as always. Peg C in the house. My boy, how's it going? I'm 5 episodes in on Omega Horn. How are you liking it so far? What does it feel like? Like if you had to compare it to anything else that you've watched, Peg C, what would you say Omega Horn feels like? Does it feel more like a proper Super Sentai season? And also, is there any connection to the previous Project Red series that they just had with the Space Sheriff Gavin? Let me know. We got Kiki and Luca in the house. Appreciate you coming through. I'm a big Bourdain fan. Outside of maybe watching his show, I don't really know too much about his life, but I gotta say, relatively eye-opening, to say the least. Pexy says episode 1 of Lanterns was solid. I was out of town visiting my sister in Winnipeg, Manitoba when I watched the first episode. Very cool. I've never been out there to Canada. I would love to one day. Kiki and Lucas says see La La Land with Girlfriend in Dolby. Is that currently out? Let me see if I have La La Land on my AMC's list here. Pexy says Golden Axe, an interesting IP to make into an animated series. Kiki and Lucas says there's so much new stuff I don't know about. Thanks to Adam, now I do. I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best. Pexy says Omega Horn. It feels like I'm watching Pokemon. Really? Okay, interesting. I would never have guessed that one, Pexy, but I appreciate the comparison. Pokemon. All right, you piqued my interest, like a live action Pokemon. All right. We'll see what it's like. I did like Kiki and Luca. I did like La La Land when I first saw it. I don't think I've ever rewatched it. I do want to go ahead and check it out again, though. I didn't know it was going to be on the big screen. They are. What is this, like the 10-year, 20th year? It can't be 20 years. It's got to be like 10-year anniversary or something like that. Maybe that's why they're re-releasing it. There are a couple original films that are out there though this week that I kind of want to tackle. There was a Matthew McConaughey movie that I wind up missing last week. I don't even know if they even have a lot of showtimes left. And this trailer just came across, brought to my attention earlier this week. I think it's called It Ends. It's supposed to be some sort of like, I don't know if it's a horror so much as it is like a thriller. But it's definitely popped up on my radar as something that I want to see. I still kind of want to see I'm just looking at my what's out in movies right now. I kind of want to see the Jason Statham Mutiny. The last Jason Statham movie I watched was kind of underwhelming, so I'm like really trepidatious to even see another one of his movies at this point in time. But Mutiny is sounding kind of good to me. The Matthew McConaughey movie was The Rivals of Zia King, I believe is how you pronounce his name. I kind of want to watch it. Oh yeah, I see La La Land 10th anniversary on my list. We'll see if there's any showings in the area or not. But there are a couple of not so big, well-known movies that are out in theaters right now. I kind of want to check out. Pexy says, if you get a chance to see Omega Horn, you'll see what I'm talking about when I say it feels like I'm watching Pokemon. Maybe I'll give it a shot. But all right, guys, thank you everybody for certainly chiming in. And again, feel free to continue to chime in as we go through all of our topics. But let's go ahead and begin this show and kick it off with our first segment of the day. We got a couple topics here worth visiting. We actually have a couple of trailers, but first, before we get into that, filming for the Batman continues. For those of you who don't know, it is currently in production as of right now. Um, Let me go. I'm sorry. I just have this thing playing in the background that's just been bugging me. We do have some new set photos from the Batman Part 2, most notably the Batmobile itself. I don't know what city they're currently filming in, but they are currently filming right now some chase sequences and whatnot with the Batmobile. Been seeing a bunch of actual like live footage on social media highlighting everything that's currently going on. But I gotta say, man, this Batmobile design continues to grow on me every single time I look at it, especially every time I look at it in action. I think it's just beautiful. There's just elements of this, like, well, I think this is a Camaro or a Mustang design. I can't remember what the build of it is, but I don't know why. Like when I look at this design for the Batmobile, I get like kind of like Adam West vibes, if you will. It's not the hard top or the convertible sort of look to it, but I think it's like low to the ground. How long it is, the kind of flares in the back kind of remind me of like the bat wings on the Batmobile from the Adam West era. But it's just beefed up, man. This is just a beefy car, dude. I mean, you want to talk about muscle cars. This thing is just gorgeous to look at. So I can't wait to see it in action. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that. But yeah, we got some new images there from the set of the Batman. We also got season 2 of the Blue Samurai. um, Blue Eye Samurai, excuse me, the animated series over on Netflix. They did drop a season 2 trailer earlier this week, with a release date of January of 2027. So if you are interested, look, I believe this is like even an award-winning series, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know exactly which awards it winds up winning, if it was like an Emmy winner or whatever the case may be. But anybody that I know that has watched Blue Eye Samurai season 1 has loved it and has been long anticipating its return for a second season. And it's right around the corner, ladies and gentlemen. So Blue Eye Samurai season 2 drops in January. If you have not had the opportunity to check out the trailer for yourself, please go ahead and certainly do so. I think you guys will definitely be impressed with it. What else is in the news? Oh, we also did get ourselves a brand new poster here for an upcoming movie in October called Whalefall. I don't know if you guys have had the opportunity to see this trailer or not. I saw this, I think, in front of. I'm trying to remember what movie I saw this in front of. I think this might have been in front of the Spider-Man Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer, if I'm not mistaken, when I first saw this. And I got to tell you, it is the thing of nightmares, ladies and gentlemen. The thing of nightmares. If you haven't had the opportunity to check out the trailer, I'm going to go ahead and play it for you guys here today. This is, in fact, set to release on October 16th. So it's literally like right around the corner. But I wanted to share this with you so that we all have an anxiety attack together, and you can see what I mean. I just remember watching this. It's not even this trailer that we wind up seeing in the theaters. It was the teaser trailer, I believe, was in theaters that we saw. And that teaser trailer alone, audible gasps, and then just pure silence at the end of it, in the sense of like, people were just in awe at just how terrifying this possibly is. But let's go ahead and dive into this trailer.
You saved my life once.
First off, this kid, he's going to have a crazy, crazy fall this year. He's also the main star of the Resident Evil movie, and he's also in Whalefall here in October. I don't even know when Resident Evil releases. I think Resident Evil is like in a couple of weeks, actually, like September. So he's going to have an incredible back-to-back. Because look, I have no doubts that Zach Krieger's Resident Evil is going to go bananas. And I think this is also a sleeper film as well that is going to draw a lot of people's attention. So pay attention to this actor here, because I'm sure he's probably been in other. Somebody said he was also in Weapons. I can't quite remember, but I think this is going to be his fall and winter of 2026 for sure. But let's go ahead and dive into this.
You saved my life once. This guy swims up out of nowhere, guides me up like an angel. Probably saved a lot of lives. Did you know him? No.
That's your daddy, man.
I know your dad was rough on you, but he knew what he was talking about, especially down there.
In the ocean, predators have all the advantages. So what options does that leave prey like you?
Nope. No, thank you. God, bro. I mean, can you imagine? Oh, no. Bro. Bro. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. First off, your boy can't even swim. Okay. I mean, I might be able to doggy paddle. I might be able to get in a couple strokes. I might have like 20 to 30 seconds of swimming in me. All right. But I mean, you talk about just getting me in the water, man, let alone the deep of the ocean. No, thank you. No, thank you. It's a thing of nightmares for me. Oh, that's got to be so terrifying, dude.
Jay, you're gonna just accept your fate? No. I wanted to pass on things.
Oh, so 59 minutes of air. I wonder if we're gonna have like a countdown in this, in some way, shape, or form. I do like the idea of the time, having something that he's got to play again.
So when it matters, you'll know what to do.
Oh.
Remember, survivors survive.
That's a crazy shot. That is a crazy shot. From the mouth of the whale screaming, "Help me." Pfft, bro, ain't nobody gonna hear you, my man. Oh my God. That's a crazy shot. Bro, I can't. I can't. Like, who thinks of this? Is this like a real life story? Is this inspired off of true events? Like, who's been inside of a whale to even find? Is this even possible? Could a human survive? I need details. The fact that this was actually a novel, so this is an adaptation of a novel. So I'm definitely, like, there's a part of me that kind of wants to read the book, if I'm being honest with you. Like, who comes up with this idea? But this is the thing of nightmares. First off, we don't even belong in the ocean, okay? Especially just knowing like just how deep it is. We have no idea the creatures that even live and exist in there. And then just to be going for a swim randomly, scuba diving, and just to kind of fall into the mouth of a whale. Oh my God. Like, oh, can't even imagine. But yeah, that is that is Whalefall. Set to go ahead and drop October 16th for you guys. I'm looking forward to it though, for sure. I will be there, palms sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy, watching this movie for sure. But yeah, guys, let me know your thoughts. And with that out of the way, that will do it for the honorable mentions portion of the show. So without any further ado, man, let's go ahead and dive into our main topics today. We've got an incredible show. We got some incredible topics. The DC Studios is back at it. We're going to be talking about the brand new DCU series. We also have Golden Axe in the news here this week, as we've been presented with an animated series and a trailer that wind up dropping for it. Some news in regards to the live action Naruto movie, and plenty of other things in the world of Marvel Television, along with more DCU stuff. But let's go ahead and kick off with the story really of the week here. And that's going to be the Gorilla Grodd Jimmy Olsen series has officially been greenlit for DC Studios, which pretty much means everything has come together. We've got the showrunners, we've got the writers, we've got the directors, we've got the cast, all in place. And they're ordering an entire series, not just necessarily like a pilot or anything like that, but they are moving ahead with the entirety of the series. Let's go ahead and get into some further details here. James Gunn also went ahead and released this press release from the Daily Planet. Let me go ahead and bring this up here. This is the press release from the Daily Planet to let us know not only just the show title, but really the premise of what this series is certainly going to be. I think, you know, it was interesting when this news dropped that they were doing a Jimmy Olsen Gorilla Grodd series. One of the names circulating and floating around for the name of the series itself was going to be DC Crime. And I remember James Gunn squashing that immediately. And instead, it's not going to be called DC Crime, but the series is going to be called The People versus Gorilla Grodd. I love the name of it, if I'm being honest with you. But here's what the Daily Planet has to say. The Daily Planet announced today it will begin production on an 8-part documentary series that will dive back into Metropolis's most infamous murder trial. The People versus Gorilla Grodd will take a fresh 360-degree look at the case, revealing a lesser seen side of the hyper-intelligent ape, according to the film's first-time director, Jimmy Olsen. Olsen was granted unprecedented exclusive access to interview Grodd inside Stryker Island's penitentiary for the documentary. So this show is being presented to us through the lens of the Daily Planet, creating an 8-part documentary series being hosted by Jimmy Olsen, who apparently there is a murder trial currently going on that's taking place in Metropolis. Now, I'm kind of surprised it's a Metropolis thing. I would have thought that it was maybe something they would do like whatever city that maybe like the Flash is from or whatever the case may be. But I guess maybe maybe Gorilla Grodd murdered somebody in Metropolis. Maybe that's why they're holding the case in Metropolis, but it's going to be titled The People versus Gorilla Grodd. Gorilla Grodd has long claimed his innocence in the murder and brain consumption of his father, King Grodd. Ooh, so it's the idea of him possibly killing his own father, a crime he was convicted of in March 2021 and has remained incarcerated ever since. The series will take an in-depth look at the investigation, featuring brand new reporting from members of the Daily Planet staff, as well as interviews with witnesses and experts on both Grodd's and the Metropolis District Attorney's side of the case, including Gorilla Grodd's new counsel at the Metropolis Freedom Project. So look, this is a great opportunity here to introduce us to some other well-known characters in the DCU. One, the idea that Gorilla Grodd has new counsel at Metropolis Freedom Project, I am kind of curious if there's any first off, I would be curious if Metropolis Freedom Project is even in the comic books, and if so, what names might be associated with them, or who could wind up stepping up to be the new counsel for Gorilla Grodd, sort of on the defendant side, if you will. But from like a prosecution point of view, interviews with witnesses and experts, this is the opportunity to have the Flash in this show. I'm just being honest. Like, if the Flash is not in this series, this is a missed opportunity. I mean, how can you have Gorilla Grodd on the stand at a murder trial and not have one of the witnesses be the Flash? I mean, Gorilla Grodd is literally this man's rogues gallery. The Flash should be taking a stand, whether that be as the Flash or even as Wally West. I mean, I guess it would depend on if their secret identities are revealed or whatever the case may be. But I got to expect some superheroes take the stand that have faced off against Gorilla Grodd, maybe some infamous villains that maybe have teamed up with Gorilla Grodd in the past. Like, what if Lex Luthor winds up taking the stand in here to defend Gorilla Grodd? Like, I could see that as a possibility too. Everyone thinks they know Grodd, the power-hungry gorilla who killed his father for the throne of Gorilla City, said Perry White, managing editor of the Daily Planet and the documentary's supervising producer. But once you start to look beneath the fur, you start to realize there's a lot more to that primate. So we're going to have Jimmy Olsen being the director of this documentary, along with the host, and really getting to learn more about Gorilla Grodd, his past, and really diving into the idea of, did he kill his father? I love this idea, guys. I truly do love this idea. We're continuing to get outside of the norms in regards to some of the television series, how they're presented to us. You know, one of the things that James Gunn has always said is that each project individually is going to feel differently tonally. And we kind of already see that firsthand when it comes to Lanterns, and really sort of like um, how much freedom he's given the Lanterns writing team and showrunners to go ahead and create that show. I would expect, because of the idea of the creative team behind the show coming from American Vandal or American Vandalism, I can't remember, also Emmy nominated series as well. They know what they're doing, and I'm hoping that it's just as hands off as they are with Lanterns, to kind of give us this really cool and unique take. I don't know if we've ever really seen a comic book genre type of television show kind of go down this route, right? Because it's not just like a court procedural or anything like that. Like, this is very much also a documentary, a mockumentary style, if you will. And I don't think I've ever seen them do that before. HBO Max officially orders Jimmy Olsen's series, The People versus Gorilla Grodd. HBO Max's next DC Studio series will have a decidedly lighter tone than its current one. The streamer has officially picked up The People versus Gorilla Grodd, a mockumentary centered on Daily Planet staffer Jimmy Olsen. The 8-episode show will show Jimmy. Where did it go? Will show Jimmy directing and starring in a true crime show that investigates whether Gorilla Grodd was wrongly convicted in one of Metropolis's most famous murder trials. Jimmy Tatro will play Gorilla Grodd, the super intelligent ape and sometimes Superman nemesis. Gisando will reprise his role. Well, it says and sometimes Superman nemesis. I mean, let's be honest. He's also a sometimes everybody nemesis, but mostly the Flash. So give me a Flash cameo. Give me a Superman cameo in here. I need to see some people talking about him, even if it's just like quick snippets. I need to see some superheroes and villains in here taking sides. The People versus Gorilla Grodd comes from the American Vandal creators, who served as showrunner. Between Skylar's wonderful performance and the fantastic chemistry of the Daily Planet cast, we knew that this would be fun world to explore. We're excited to work with the brilliant Dan Peralt and Tony Cinda to take the audience down some of the darker and funnier streets and alleyways of the DCU as Jimmy spotlights the Metropolis's criminal justice system for his docuseries. We're thrilled to be working with this creative team alongside James and Peter Safran. We already know Skylar Gisondo is pitch perfect as Jimmy Olsen, and we can't wait for fans to experience Jimmy Tatro's captivating and hilarious portrayal of Grodd. As part of the series announcement, HBO offered up a mock Daily Planet press release. Already talked about that already at the top. The series order comes on the heels of Lantern scoring positive reviews and a big audience from its recent release. Although I don't think release date yet in regards to when this. We're excited by the challenge of creating a series that feels less like an entry into the DCU and more like an artifact from it. We hope it'll appeal to fans of the comics, comedy, and true crime. And while we can't speak for audiences here yet, we already know it's a huge hit in Metropolis. They love this series. Look, I do love a true crime documentary. I'm not gonna lie. Like I truly am. Like, me and the girlfriend. Literally, especially the girlfriend loves her some true crime documentary series, and I love watching them along with her also. So the idea that this is what we're sort of tapping into, I mean, look, around this house we could watch ghost stories and murder stories like all day long. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. Okay, you put on a couple of murder trials or true crime, Dateline stuff, whatever the case may be, we're glued to the TV. And so to kind of go down this avenue, I think is really never really been touched upon in regards to comic book genres. And I do remember a while back James Gunn talking about the idea that he had an idea for a television series that he didn't want to put out into the world because of the fact that he was afraid that if he talked about it, someone would kind of steal his idea. And I am kind of wondering if this is the idea that he's referring to, because it just seems really unique and kind of fun. And while, yes, I'm certainly not somebody that asked for a Jimmy Olsen series, considering the fact that people were definitely praising the Jimmy Olsen character and were had a lot of fun with him in the Superman movie, it doesn't surprise me that he would get a spin-off series, considering the fact that he also had a DC Comics comic run himself, but also the ability to allow the Daily Planet cast to kind of shine and continue to utilize them again in a really significant way. This seems really fun and out of the box, and I think, considering the fact that we have a DC universe that's already well established, to us visit a murder that happened in 2021 and to be able to see the people that live within inside this world, whether they be hero or villains or whatever the other witnesses might be, to kind of see this world fleshed out a little bit more through the lens of a true crime docuseries just sounds really appealing to me. So do not miss with the Flash cameo, though. Like, if this series does not have a Flash cameo in it, I will be like, yeah, I'm gonna lose it. I'm absolutely gonna lose it. Like, this is your opportunity to show us who our Flash in this world certainly is. You know, he doesn't have to have a super big presence in here, maybe 1 or 2 episodes or whatever the case may be. I'll certainly even take that. But the fact that this series is greenlit, and I'm kind of curious as to when it's set to go into production, if it's already hasn't. I'll have to look that up when the production for this series certainly starts. But as this starts, I am kind of curious, because I gotta think. Let me know, guys. Do you think the Flash has to be in this series? Or am I the only one that's over exaggerating in regards to that? Because my thing would be, how close of a secret is this going to be kept during production? Now, if it's something that they film sort of on set and not, on location, they probably could keep it relatively secret for quite some time before maybe sources on the inside start leaking things. But I got to imagine that the Flash is going to be in this series in some capacity. I mean, again, he may not be the feature character. It may be really Daily Planet cast focus, and I'm perfectly okay with that. But the idea of diving into this world from this true crime perspective, I think is a really brilliant and kind of fun idea. Again, I know that we're probably in the phase of the DCU where it's like, I really want a Wonder Woman and Batman. Like, let's flesh out this Trinity certainly a little bit more. But if you're willing to take cool creative swings and do things different in the comic book genre and attach sort of Emmy nominated creative teams to these projects, then I'm going to be on board, because of the fact that I think when I think about HBO Max or just HBO original series in general, the quality bar is very high. I don't think that they would just create this stuff on like small CW level budgets. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't Arrowverse. Like, when you release something on HBO Max or HBO original series, it's meant to be some level of prestige television, high top quality television that could possibly get nominated for awards come award season. We got that with The Penguin. I think we're definitely getting that here with Lanterns. And I think the same could be said for a Jimmy Olsen show, which sounds crazy to say, but I think that this is a really fun concept that I think is going to draw a lot of eyes. And whether or not it works or not, we'll definitely see. But the fact that they're really diving in, especially with this Daily Planet sort of press release that they wind up dropping, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing what the rest of the marketing campaign is going to be like for this television series. So we'll see how it turns out. But I'm really excited for this news, if I'm being honest with you guys. I would love to know what you guys think in regards to it, though. Marcinho says, I think we might see Kate Spencer, who the second Manhunter and is a superhero lawyer like She-Hulk. Oh, okay. I like that. I like that. I really like that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think from a defense side of things, along with the prosecution side of things, I think there's a lot of cool like avenues and characters, maybe some deep cuts or some really big names that you can kind of insert into this world that might get people fascinated to learn a little bit more about these characters, right? So if, like, whether or not she's Kate Spencer is like a lawyer for Gorilla Grodd, or she's the lawyer for the prosecution side, trying to sentence him. I would be open. I would be open for it. I would definitely be open for it. Hunter Iggy, what's up, Hunter? What is your thoughts on HBO wanting a Jimmy Olsen show, and people are saying who needed this or wants this? Look, I think a lot of the times, I mean, I'm first off, I'm not a fan of the people that say like, who even asked for this, because the truth is, who asks for anything? I mean, there's a bunch of movies and television series that nobody asked for, but are produced and written and put out there into the world, and it winds up having some sort of fan base. Now, it may not hit for everybody, but the notion of who asks for this is it's just a stupid question to me, if I'm being honest with you, because nobody asks for anything, and then sometimes we get greatness out of those things. You know what I mean? And so, if they don't want to watch it, they certainly don't want to watch it. But this is going to make me go on a tangent. Like, my patience wears thin for people in fandoms that ask these dumbass questions. Like, I'm just being honest. Like, fandom to me, being a fan is being is loving things and being positive about things and being open-minded about things. I come from a completely different era in regards to before comic books, movies, or comic book television series were even a thing. I was a kid that would open up a comic book and pray to God that one day I could see these heroes on the big screen or in the small screen. And while, yes, they were certainly around in the early 2000s, and they've just gotten better certainly since then, I view these opportunities to see these shows as something that I never had the opportunity to growing up. And so if you want to tell me, hey, I got a Jimmy Olsen show for you, yeah, I may not be like, yes, I can't believe it, Jimmy Olsen, just what I wanted. I'm like, all right, show me what you got. Like, if you think you've got a really cool idea, show me what you got. And so I wish more people would focus on the positives and focus on the open-mindedness of it all, and allow these creators to show us what they're capable of in regards to coming up with really unique and different stories. We may not have asked for this, but you know what we do ask for? We ask for originality, don't we? Right? We're tired of reboots. We're tired of the same old thing all the time. People want to see creators take big swings and give us original aspects of things. And if you ask me, I think this Jimmy Olsen series is exactly that. 9 times out of 10, people don't know what they want. They may think that they know what they want until they actually get it. And so the idea that we have been asking people for more originality, take bigger swings creatively, boom, and this is it. This is it. Pexy says, I think you're right on the mark. Hunter says, if Zack Snyder made Lanterns or People versus Grodd, it would say the opposite of the approval rating. Oh, is it because it's a Zack Snyder thing? I mean, maybe. That's why I'm saying fandoms these days, really irk me. I'm just not, just seeing some of the discourse on Twitter is just really a cesspool of horrible takes and horrible opinions, and so much biases. It's kind of sad. It's really ruined fandoms for me. I think people have really lost the plot in regards to being fans of franchises. or being fans of, just some of these properties. Yeah. Let me know what you guys think in regards to the People versus Gorilla Grodd. I love the name personally. I do. Like, it feels like a perfect documentary series title name, if you ask me. So I'm a big fan of it. But we are going to stick in the world of the DCU because this past week, our boy Guy Gardner has been in the news. That's right. Nathan Fillion is making his presence known in the DCU on a heavy basis, mind you. Last week, there was a story out there, and we didn't tackle it, but there was a story last week that highlighted the idea that Guy Gardner, Nathan Fillion himself, was actually going to be in the upcoming Mr. Miracle animated series. And it really had me thinking, like, just how much of an impact somebody like Guy Gardner is truly having in the DCU. I mean, he's almost attached to every project within the DCU so far, with the exception of maybe Clayface and Creature Commandos, right? I mean, we saw him in Superman. We know that he's going to be in Lanterns. We also saw him in Peacemaker season 2, and now he's also going to be in the Mr. Miracle animated series. I mean, Guy Gardner is turning out to be the anchor being of the DCU. And it's not just myself that has kind of gained this notice that Nathan Fillion is truly popping up everywhere in the DCU, but as Nathan Fillion himself also, as he had the opportunity to sit down, I believe it was with Screen Rant, to really talk about his character's kind of impact in the DCU along with his placement. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about it. This comes to us from Screen Rant. Nathan Fillion details why Guy Gardner is in most DC movies and TV shows. He hasn't popped up in Lanterns yet, but he is expected to. I don't know what his presence is going to be, but we'll find out. It says, in an interview with Screen Rant's Ash Crossan for Lanterns, Nathan Fillion, who is set to return as Guy Gardner in the HBO drama series, was asked what it means for him to be the actor to have appeared the most in DC's Gunn's DC franchise. The rookie lead stated that, to me, that means there's a chance that maybe I'll continue to be employed throughout my twilight years. That's my hope, at least. Shout out to Philly, man. I love this man. My man's a national treasure for sure. He says, look, I like the idea that he is the connective tissue. He's the thread that weaves throughout the fabric of this universe. For the superhero veteran, he feels that if you're a character in this universe, if you're watching this universe, he's in the back there. If you live in the DC universe, you're gonna be inundated with this guy. See what he did there? The Firefly actor elaborated, but why is he the guy? Listen, I think if we're just kind of logically thinking it out, I think Guy Gardner is someone who embraces marketing. Fillion also admits that I think he understands the important brand, the brand of Lord Tech, the brand of the Justice Gang, the brand of Green Lanterns, the brand that is Guy Gardner. And in the end, Fillion added that I think he's very I think he understands TikTok trends. I think he's on the pulse. He has financial goals. He wants to open a bar. He wants to do things, and his appearance, now how he's perceived, that's important to him. So I think he's out there in the public eye. I think maybe that might be one of the reasons he exists across the projects he exists. To me, this is an interesting take on who Guy Gardner is. When he talks about it this way, this feels very much like the sort of like the big ego of Guy Gardner, the narcissist, the person that is fully aware of wanting eyes on him at all times. Whether or not he forcibly injects himself into situations that maybe don't necessarily pertain to him, but he recognizes he might be one of the few heroes maybe in the DCU that takes his superstardom seriously, in the sense of, like, he's not just a superhero, but he's also I don't want to say a role model, but he's also like a figure, a prominent figure. And the fact that he wants to keep himself relevant um, by, knowing how to market himself properly, whether that be with the uniforms or like he says, he's probably somebody that knows TikTok trends. As old as this man is, like it's like the vein of Guy Gardner in order to like constantly be at the forefront of people's minds or mentioned or whatever the case may be. So the fact that he finds himself in all these positions, it does make me wonder, like, is he just meant to be in these positions, or is he looking at these situations of popping up in opportunity as opportunities to put himself out there, to continue to have his name in people's mouths and to continue to be a household name amongst people? So that's a very interesting take that I think Nathan Fillion certainly has for somebody like Guy Gardner. Like, how does he pop up in all? Not to say that he's like the most important person in the DCU, but Guy Gardner probably thinks that he is, and he wants to continue to make himself relevant. And so how do you do that in the world of the DCU? You get involved in a lot of things, even if people aren't necessarily asking for you to, right? So I've seen people say this about Guy Gardner in the sense that like most heroes have probably bumped into him, whether they want to or not, and they probably already have an opinion about who Guy Gardner is. So yeah, he may get involved in your stuff whether you want him to or not, but that's all due to, I think, Guy Gardner wanting to be at the forefront of things, understanding that your name means something, and maybe the only, I don't want to say maybe the only superhero, but one of the few superheroes that looks as being a superhero as a business, and the importance of being recognized and having a following sort of thing, and using that certainly to your advantage. I mean, being a part of Lord Tech, putting the Justice Gang together, constantly being a presence in the world. It is fascinating. And I think, look, I think just from, if we take a step back from just like an acting perspective, Nathan Fillion, I think, is always gold. I don't know if I've seen Nathan Fillion do anything that's bad. Like when Nathan Fillion pops up in a particular role, whatever he's done, it always works. I think that's why people love Nathan Fillion as much as he do. Really witty guy, fast thinker, funny. I loved his show that he had on ABC for a while, where he was like the writer that tagged along with the police officer and solved crimes. Great show. Like Firefly, Serenity. I think he's attached himself to really like, I don't want to say cult like status, but like, if you know Nathan Fillion, you know Nathan Fillion. And I think James Gunn did a great job of casting him as Guy Gardner. And look, anytime he pops up in a project, like, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I love the fact that of all the characters, Guy Gardner is the one that has that much presence. And if anything, this continues, I don't want to say solidify for me, because who knows how long this James Gunn DCU universe is certainly going to last. But if we ever get to a proper buildup of anything, I think the fact that Guy Gardner is kind of at the forefront of a lot of this feels very, while they call themselves Justice Gang now, this concept of a Justice League International, I think is not off the table. I do think that that's a big opportunity for them to lead to, especially with them peppering in Guy Gardner everywhere. It would make reason that he would be one of the the front facing, one of the faces at the front of Justice League International, whether or not he would be like the leader or whatever the case may be, and kind of seeing just the oddball characters that are kind of being introduced into this particular world that could potentially make up something like a Justice League International. I really hope that that's what the buildup is towards. But regardless, we got ourselves a very quality live action Guy Gardner here in Nathan Fillion. And if you ask me, keep peppering him in things. And I think he'll deliver regardless. I don't think we'll ever be disappointed in him popping up in here. Marcelo says, do you think Guy Gardner will become a Red Lantern like in the comics at one point? I wouldn't mind seeing that, Marcelino. My biggest question would just be, how far off is that, right? I don't necessarily know if that's in the preview of within the first 10 years of development for them. At least in regards to James Gunn and Peter Safran's building up of the world, this feels more like it's leading towards a Justice League International. And so I think at first you probably want him to stay a hero in that regards to build up to something like that properly. And then maybe after those events, maybe you tackle something like a Green Lanterns, but or a Red Lantern, I should say. But at this pace, there's something that tells me it's kind of far and away for us to get to the Red Lantern Guy Gardner, but we'll see. We'll see what they have in mind. Hunter says, what if Guy Gardner is behind everything? I am curious to see his role in Lanterns, especially after the big reveal at the end of episode 1. Where is Guy during this time? So I'll be interested to see if we get a Guy Gardner sighting in this episode of Lanterns, as Jon Stewart maybe begins to ask questions in the year of 2026. As far as like, is he behind everything? That I don't know. That would be an interesting one in the sense of like pulling the strings, but it feels a little bit out of character. I don't want to say out of character, but that feels like a villain move, if you will. Granted, I could see it from like a marketing perspective, like maybe Guy Gardner wanting a big event to occur or to happen so that he can get more recognition or have his team, win out and become more recognized and more popular. That would be an interesting wrinkle, but I would also feel like now we're trying to lead Guy Gardner down a path of villainy or making some questionable decisions. So I don't know if we'll go that route with him or not, but we'll definitely see. He's got a significant presence, so maybe there is a bigger plan being built up around him here, but only time will certainly tell. But look, guys, let me know your thoughts in regards to Guy Gardner's presence in the DCU. Are you fond of Nathan Fillion as this particular character? Do you like how he's being utilized so far? And would you like to see more of him? Let me know. I would, if anything, I would assume that he probably would be in Man of Tomorrow. I gotta also think he would be in the People versus Gorilla Grodd, maybe as somebody that's on the prosecution side that's faced off against Grodd, especially if the Daily Planet press release refers to him sort of like as a Superman villain. I got to assume that Superman and Guy Gardner have been up against this guy. But the fact again that it's taking place in Metropolis and it's the Daily Planet is putting out this press release, there's a part of me that's worried that we're not going to get ourselves a Flash debut in there, but we need a Flash debut. I know we're not talking about the People versus Gorilla Grodd anymore, but we need a Flash in this show. Like we really do. I think it's going to be a missed opportunity if they don't tackle it. But I do expect Guy Gardner to also take the stand, considering the fact that series is taking place in Metropolis. So we'll see how far-reaching Guy Gardner's presence really goes in the DCU and some of the upcoming projects that they certainly have in store. But let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section box below. And from the DCU to the MCU, Marvel Television is in the news here this week. They've been in the news the past couple of weeks, honestly, as there have been some significant changes happening behind the scenes, as we've had some heartbreaking cancellations when it comes to Marvel Television in the form of Wonder Man Season 2. We've also heard reports of the idea that Marvel is taking a step back when it comes to Marvel Television, that they might be cutting back on live action and a little bit more of a main focus in regards to the animated side of things. Well, this week, new reports are claiming that, look, while yes, Marvel Television may be pulling back from live action, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are fully out of the live action live action game. So there could be potential for a future seasons or future shows. So let's go ahead and dive into this article. This one comes to us from comicbookmovie.com that shares this article. I believe they're referencing Puck News in this article. But let's go ahead. It says Marvel Television's future has been revealed, but will the MCU movies now all be about Spider-Man? No, I doubt that. But let's see what they're talking about here. Fortunately, we have a positive update from Puck. According to the outlet, there are multiple live-action Marvel series in development for Disney Plus, with announcements coming soon. Marvel Television is confirmed to host a panel at New York City Comic-Con on October 8th. So that could be where we learn more about these small screen plans. There have been rumors about additional special presentations, but there's currently no word on who would feature in any future Disney Plus projects. However, the Wall Street Journal has said the era of prestige and expensive Marvel limited series is over after Vision Quest, but they'd certainly like to find a new live action show with multiple season potential that's not closely tied to the movies and doesn't cost too much. Back to the original port, it sounds like the $2 billion success of Spider-Man Brand New Day has not been lost on Disney or Marvel Studios, even if they have to share the web slinger with Sony Pictures. It says, among the news coming out of D23, the biennial event where Disney superfans pay hundreds of dollars to watch trailers, it didn't escape notice that not a single Marvel show was announced for Disney Plus. I guess our plan is just Spider-Man, one of the executive texted me on Sunday. Half kidding. So no, I don't believe that this means that they're gonna fully lead into every movie is gonna be Spider-Man related, but I do think that they understand where their money is, and their money definitely is in Spider-Man. So I can see Spider-Man having a presence. I mean, the fact that they have initially sort of set up the origin stories of the X-Men in the MCU through a Spider-Man movie continues to show me that, kind of like Guy Gardner and how he's the anchor being for the DCU, Spider-Man very much to me is the anchor being in the MCU, touching pretty much every aspect, every corner of Marvel, whether that be street level, going even now taking something like the mutant side of things, and I'm sure even more cosmic side of things eventually as well. So I definitely expect them to utilize Spider-Man in a particular unique way. And while I don't know if he's in Avengers Doomsday, there's a part of me that wants to say that he might be, maybe in like a post-credit scene or whatever the case may be. I definitely expect him to pop up in something like Secret Wars. But don't be surprised if you do see Spider-Man, Tom Holland's Peter Parker maybe popping up in other places. So yeah, really the main ideas here. There are multiple live action Marvel series in development for Disney Plus, with announcements coming soon, and that apparently the era of prestige and expensive Marvel limited series is over after Vision Quest, but there's certainly like to find a new live action show with multiple season potential that's not closely tied to the movies and doesn't cost much. So it sounds like they want to enter their Arrowverse phase. This is what that sounds like. This is what that sounds like to me. The MCU wants to create an Arrowverse. It's kind of what I'm getting the vibes from here. Look, the idea of wanting to do more Marvel television to me is an interesting one, in the sense of, one, I'm okay with it, because I do think, separate from the MCU, I do think that there are a plenty of other Marvel characters that should get the opportunity to see the light of day, that may not necessarily um, get the opportunity to shine on the big screen. There are a ton of characters that are potentially out there. I do think, while I get the idea of like, hey, the prestige level television didn't necessarily work out for us. I think you could also do prestige television though that's not connected to the MCU. But the problem is that that's how they really established this prestige era of television, was that we're going to put a lot of money towards these big budgeted shows, and all of this stuff is certainly connected. And they're realizing that by making these television series connected to the movies, they have now introduced more homework, certainly for the fans. Whereas I would just say, I think some of the prestige stuff really works. It's really working for something like the DCU as of right now. And I think that Marvel could take a page out of that. But if you're going to do that, just don't make it connected to the MCU. Focus on other characters. But because my point of view would be, I think Wonder Man season 2 could still work if they decided to go that direction. I mean, that's a show that's not really heavily VFX heavy, so you don't have a lot of special effects and big budget towards that. But I mean, the show did look beautiful, so I'm sure that there was a hefty budget towards something like Wonder Man. But I think a Wonder Man show could exist outside of the connective tissue of the MCU. But there is a part of me that kind of thinks that it wouldn't surprise me if we actually see maybe Wonder Man pop up in something like Secret Wars. So maybe he is going to be connected to an overall bigger story, MCU wise. But taking a step back kind of makes sense for them also, in the regards to like, look, we're about to hit Avengers Doomsday. We've got Secret Wars in the works. We're really trying to wrap up sort of this multiverse saga thing and really course correct some of our mistakes. And so I think that's why we're getting the cancellation of some of these shows, in the sense of like, after Secret Wars, let's really kind of change course and change our focus and put all of our eggs sort of in the MCU movie basket. And then maybe giving some lesser known characters more low budget sort of television shows that exist. I don't want to say outside of the MCU, but aren't necessarily connected to the bigger narrative. And if that's the route that they want to go, I'm kind of open to it. It's what they had with Runaways. It's what they had with Cloak and Dagger. It's what they had with, although I think The Gifted is kind of more like a Fox property at the time. It's what they had with, eventually became Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. In regards to its kind of disconnect, if you will. And those things really worked. And I was kind of bummed when they decided to cancel those shows previously. We were supposed to even get ourselves a Ghost Rider television series, right? And we didn't get the opportunity to get that either. So I think there's a lot of opportunity out there to focus on other characters. And give them opportunities. Not, Night Thrasher, was it Dark Hawk, if they want to go that route. There's a bunch of like a smaller, a New Warriors group would be great. I'm even open to more special presentations, whether that be, I personally would love a Heroes for Hire series instead of a special presentation, personally. I would even be down for like a Young Avengers or a West Coast Avengers sort of series, give me something along those lines, or like Champions. Even if you're not going to do Young Avengers, but you want to do something else, a Champions special presentation or series would be pretty dope also. So I kind of like the idea, but when they're talking about lower budget multiple season shows, they probably should have built this up a long time ago, but it just feels like the Arrowverse to me in regards to the MCU. But I'll digest the shit out of that, that's for sure, because I think characters deserve the opportunity that haven't gotten live action adaptations to get the opportunity to finally be on the small screen in some capacity. And I think the change of focus to let the movies just be the movies and let that be a connected universe, I think will really cut out the homework for people but then also allow people to feel part of the club again, without having to do so much, extra homework in regards to trying to figure out how everything is kind of connected. So I'm kind of a fan of this. It sucks that some of our that we're not getting the prestige level stuff anymore. Because I think the DCU is doing a brilliant job in that regards, and I would love to see the MCU kind of focus on that a little bit too. Um, and so it feels some type of way having a show like Wonder Man not get a second season, but then say, but we still want to do television shows. So that's a little bit of a bummer. But this may be the way to go for them. And I'll be kind of curious. And there is a part of me that was curious when we went to D23. Usually with that being a heavy focus of animation and television, I feel like we got very, very little of that. And so I am hoping that New York City Comic-Con, when we get out there in October, has a couple of big reveals for us. I am expecting that trailer that they released at D23 for Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I expect that to be announced or released. I expect the Daredevil season 3 trailer to be announced. I would be kind of curious to know if they're even going to do a Daredevil season 4. There's a part of me that would legit be okay if they ended it at season 3, but maybe carried over some of those characters into sort of maybe like a group show, like a Heroes for Hire show would make a lot more sense to me. Or just go Defenders if they want that. Like, the only reason why I say I'm not sure about a season 4 of Daredevil Born Again is just I don't know if the viewership is there in regards to its ratings. I mean, it's a great show, but I don't know if the money warrants the viewership. But I still want Charlie Cox to be involved in future Marvel television projects, if that makes sense, right? Like, I know Charlie Cox is such a great Matt Murdock and Daredevil that I know that he would love to be involved in some capacity kind of going forward. And so I would like him to be kind of sprinkled into the Marvel television series side of things. So I do think there's really great opportunity there. And I think they've got somebody in Brad Winderbaum, who's the head president of the animation and television side of things, that has a really good mind for these things. And so I'm hoping that, again, we get some Daredevil announcements, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man announcements. It wouldn't surprise me if they talked a little bit about some X-Men 97 season 3, and then an announcement of like some live action shows, or like the future of what Marvel television is going to be looking like. Would be a really great eye-opener. I'm kind of hoping that they have some projects that are kind of secretly in the works, maybe in early development, that they feel pretty positive about, that they might announce. So I'm going to be looking forward to the Marvel television panel. I think it said October 8th over at New York Comic-Con. Yeah, it seems that the Marvel television future is bright, but I'm kind of curious to know how you guys feel about the idea of lower budget with multiple season type of shows coming out of there. It gives off Arrowverse vibes, and I'm not mad at it. I just wish this is something that they might have dealt with a little bit earlier. You know what I mean? Let's see here. What are you guys saying? There's a lot of comments about this one here. Kiki and Lucas say those Marvel shows cost a lot. They're better off doing movies in theaters and then showing them on Disney Plus. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the budget for some of those shows currently are, but I do hear that they are pretty expensive. Blossom says Gorilla Grodd is that intelligent gorilla, right? Yep, that's him. That's him. Marcelino says brand new day didn't even mention where Spider-Man was during Kingpin's lockdown from Born Again, or what he was doing during the Thunderbolts when the Void took over New York. Yeah, that's true. I mean, they did highlight. No, I guess those were big potatoes. Those were probably big potatoes. Although the Kingpin stuff I would be interested in, but the Thunderbolts when the Void took over New York, that's probably big potato stuff. And as we know, Spider-Man's more small potatoes. Maybe he was focused on the neighborhood a little bit more. Kiki and Luke says, I wonder if Lucasfilm will have the same policy as Marvel and we are getting fewer limited series. That's what I've been hearing. I have been hearing that this is not just a Marvel Studios thing, but it's also a Lucasfilm thing in regards to how Disney wants to kind of handle it. So the idea of like live action Star Wars stuff, high budget limited series stuff, I think those days are long gone. Although look, me and the girlfriend are watching Andor right now, season 2. And I remember thinking to myself, Tony Gilroy and Kathleen Kennedy used to do interviews, and they used to be like, I don't know if if we'll ever have a Star Wars television show like this again. And I truly believe that. I think even getting Andor made was a fucking miracle. And I think Kathleen Kennedy really busted her ass and went to bat for Tony Gilroy to make that show happen. And I just don't know if that level of peak will be matched again in the future, but we'll see what Dave Filoni has in mind. I mean, his mindset right now is very much he wants to appeal to all generations of Star Wars fans. So prequel, original series, sequel fans, Clone War fans, and everything in between. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of swing somebody like Dave Filoni will take, and if the new CEO of Disney is open to that. I see Star Wars as needing to get its feet back into the big screen, but I'm not opposed to Star Wars television. I just think it needs to be really well thought out, big writers' room with a plan. And because I think there's plenty of stuff that you can do in Star Wars because of the idea that there is such a significant just time periods that are still kind of unexplored. The 20 to 25 year gap between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. Like I would love a live action Luke Skywalker series. I don't think we're going to get that. I can see them doing that in like an animation form. That would be pretty dope. I wouldn't mind seeing that. Maybe even get Mark Hamill to voice Luke Skywalker would be pretty cool. So while I would love to see that in live action, I can see that being an animated series, maybe in like Clone Wars animation, if I'm being honest. But I just think that there are really great opportunities out there to do live action Star Wars stuff like Skeleton Crew. I think Skeleton Crew was really fun. Why, like, original characters, exploring an aspect of the universe really untapped, and it's part of that Mandoverse stuff. But a Skeleton Crew season 2 would have been great. We need a Kenobi movie and not a lower quality series. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that stuff, the movie, I think Kenobi was originally meant to be a movie, and then they eventually decided to rewrite it as a series. And I think that's what happens with these limited series, is that they promoted a lot of this stuff as 8-hour movies, and that's movies and television are two completely different things. Like, how you format and tell a story through movies is completely different than how you format and tell stories through television. And I think when you see these limited series like that, they feel like movies that are chopped down into 8 episodes, and the pacing and stuff is just horrendously off. There's no showrunners attached. There's no, like, it's not broken down like a television series. So I think you're already doing a disservice by treating a television series as a movie, because they're not being told and paced out properly. And I think you can feel that when you watch some of these limited series also. And so if you're going to make a television series, make a television series. If you're going to make a movie, make a movie. But don't make a movie and turn it into an 8-part television series. Like, it's just doing a disservice. So I do think we could get live action Star Wars stuff. I just think the focus and what the story is has to be chosen very wisely. I think that means we will get Netflix shows again, since they were similar scale and did not use bombastic powers. Maybe not on Netflix. I think they'll definitely be on Disney Plus, but I would agree with you, smaller scale and not a lot of bombastic powers. Blossom, going back to Nathan Fillion, haven't seen him since Netflix version of Lemony Snicket. Oh, I didn't know Nathan Fillion was in Lemony Snicket at all. It's pretty cool. He's keeping busy. Yeah, I'm glad that he continues to get work. I really love Nathan Fillion. Like, he seems like an absolute like national treasure for sure. Marcelino, don't forget that before Disney Plus existed, the fans were asking for the shows to be connected and hated that the Netflix shows and Shield were treated as the same connectivity. Oh no, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. This is not to let the CEOs and Marvel off the hook, but the fans aren't innocent either. Now they're gaslighting people by saying we didn't want, no one asked for this. Hypocrisy at its finest. They don't want to admit that they contributed to the problem and want to play victim. I mean, no, I think you're absolutely right. Also, Marcelino, I think you're absolutely right. There were definitely a lot of people that to this day, I still think that there are Shield fans that are like, please let this next movie connect to Shield. Please let this next movie connect to Shield. And I think we're definitely way past that at this point in time. But look, I will say this. The idea of it all connect, and I've said this before because I've definitely been on both sides of this coin. Because when it was announced that Disney Plus or Disney, that Marvel was going to take and cancel their current shows, and that all the other shows that were going to come out were going to be connected to Disney Plus or to the MCU, I thought the idea of doing Disney Plus shows was a good idea. The idea of canceling those other shows that exist out of the MCU, I was always against. I always thought it was a stupid ass idea to do that in the first place. I figured for sure at some point in time it would end up coming back to where we are right now. But I always believed in the idea of being able to have Netflix show or Disney Plus shows that are connected to the MCU. And I still believe that that could have worked. You know, I think the issue comes into play where you still also have to be able to tell, I don't want to say these same stories on Disney Plus, but you also have to properly integrate these characters from the television series into the movies. And that is not what they were doing. Like, that was the key ingredient that I think Marvel Studios missed out on. You know, when we get somebody like Miss Marvel introduced into the MCU through a series, you also have to take into account that not everybody is going to watch the series. You have got to introduce these characters in the form of being acceptable or an entry for the general audience members. So when you get something like the Marvels, you can't just throw Miss Marvel in there with the assumption that people are going to know who the fuck this character is. You got to give her some backstory. You got to give her an origin story of some sort in something as big as a Captain Marvel sequel, right? So same thing with Monica Rambeau. Even though you teased her a little bit in the first Captain Marvel movie, you know, then we immediately see her in the Marvels and she's got powers, right? Like you've got to explain to us who these characters are from a general audience perspective that have no clue as to what happened in any of these movies. And so when you are relying on the audience to have to watch the movies and the television, that's where things get messy. So yes, I was somebody that hated the idea of canceling these original series that we used to have that were not connected. But I also was very much a proponent of, it would be really cool to have MCU shows that are connected. I think the missing key ingredient, though, is, and I think this is where the quality aspect of the movies get lost when you start adding quantity, is that they didn't take into the key consideration of, even though we're introducing these characters in the form of television series, we also have to properly introduce them on the movie side of things, so that if people just watch the movies, they know exactly what is going on. And when I think of like connective tissues, like when I think of it being all connected, I still was under the impression that the Disney Plus series would feel like the Netflix series, in the sense of Netflix did a great job of attaching itself to the show without, or it's the Netflix series did itself a great job in attaching itself to the MCU purposefully, whereas the MCU movies didn't necessarily do the same thing, if that makes sense, right? Like, even though they were connected, they weren't connected like that, right? Like, it wasn't pivotal that you had to watch the Netflix stuff in order to understand what the MCU was, but there was always an understanding that the DC that the Netflix shows were connected in some capacity, right? Like, that's the route that I originally thought that they were going to go, but that's not the case. I mean, they literally gave you character stories and arcs that, like, if you missed it, you would have no idea what the fuck is happening. Like, Multiverse of Madness, I love Scarlet Witch as a villain, but if you missed out on WandaVision, you probably are like, how did we even end up here, right? So I think there's just key ingredients that were missed to making it successful, as it certainly could have been. And I think they unfortunately have missed their mark. And so the fans definitely asked for that, but we definitely can't let Marvel off the hook in regards to missing some key ingredients for sure. Marcelino says, I asked Google AI that I could watch the Marvels without watching Miss Marvel or WandaVision, and it said yes because it provides enough exposition to catch the drum. I mean, I guess I don't agree with Google in that regards, but I guess. Kiki and Luke says the director of Multiverse of Madness did not even watch WandaVision. Yeah, that's what I heard from Elizabeth. Elizabeth Olsen mentioned that they hadn't even watched WandaVision, which is kind of crazy. I mean, this is what I'm talking about when it comes to, like, where's the quality police? Like, how is Kevin Feige letting these people make these movies and not watch the actual shows themselves? Like, that's crazy to me. Like, where's the quality control? You know? So yeah, let's just blow it all up and let's just start over. You know what I mean? At this point. So we'll see what happens here. But Marvel Television still has plans for more Marvel Television, maybe more low budget stuff though. Continuing series, I think they need those. I think they need those for sure. And really continuing to keep the MCU movies separate. But let me know what you guys think. Are there any characters not being utilized by Marvel that you would like to see get their own television series that can kind of stay on their own corner, get multiple seasons, but finally get the opportunity to be presented in a live action form? I would love to know some of the characters that you guys would like to see get their own television shows. I think is it Darkhawk that I'm thinking about? Yeah, Darkhawk. I wouldn't mind seeing Darkhawk get a show. Night Thrasher would be really dope to kind of see. I'm sure there's a bunch of other shows, other characters that could really be highlighted. I would love a team up show for sure. But let us know your guys' thoughts. I think, I would be curious to see what the future of something like Young Avengers are, with I feel like Young Avengers is probably movie worthy. I can't imagine the idea of like Haley Steinfeld and some of these other, big time actors wanting to come in and be part of a low budget multi-season show. Maybe you go skew it a little bit younger for something like Champions, and maybe keep Young Avengers for like the movies, like the next Avengers movie after Secret Wars. I wouldn't be opposed to the idea of a Young Avengers team if they wanted to kind of go that route. I know they're going to switch course to like the mutant side of things, but after Secret Wars, if we do want a reset and kind of go to the more Marvel Now era of Marvel Comics, I think maybe an Avengers movie after Secret Wars being Young Avengers would be a dope one. But there's a lot of opportunities out there for sure. All right, guys. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and stick in the world of Disney, as we do have ourselves a new update in regards to the world of Star Wars, as Star Wars Starfighter is back in the news here this week. We wind up getting this incredible new logo introduced to us at D23. They also went ahead and they dropped this cool fan art poster here that they were handing out, I believe, at D23 also, with Ryan Gosling's character, Cade Oberon, I believe is his name, rocking his Rebel Alliance Cross and Bones jacket upside down. I kind of dig this Rebel Alliance logo with the blasters as like the crossbones. I hope that this is something that they have available at Star Wars Celebration for purchase or on the Star Wars shop at some point in time, because I will rock this jacket. But Star Wars Starfighter is back in the news because we are getting a little bit more insight in regards to the state of this galaxy. At the time, again, this is 5 years after the rise of Skywalker. We've already seen the First Order blow up a bunch of planets with governing bodies on them. And after the events of Rise of Skywalker, where does that leave the galaxy? And this week, in a recent interview, Shawn Levy himself, the director, had the opportunity to talk and give us a little bit more insight in regards to what we can see from this universe. So let's go ahead and dive into it and see what they're going to talk about here. So this is coming from StarWarsNewsNet.com. Star Wars Starfighter is in chaotic galaxy with no governing. Feels like we're entering the wild, wild west of the Star Wars galaxy. Following the showcase at D23 on Friday night, director Shawn Levy revealed that the setting of the galaxy far, far away is a new frontier in the absence of the New Republic and the First Order 5 years after the Battle of Exegol, describing things as chaotic, with many people trying to find their way after a time of upheaval. In a new interview, he says, when I was invited, he details about how the project came together. He says, when I was invited by Kathleen Kennedy and the folks at Lucasfilm, they said, we want to now take Star Wars forward, but is new with new characters and a new adventure. And so I just started creating the story and the character of protagonist Cade Oberon, but it really sort of came together and became deeply exciting when Ryan Gosling got involved. The co-lead of the film, Flynn Gray, who has never been in the movie, is this phenomenal young actor who had that naturalism. The camera adores him. Because the movie is warm-hearted and funny, it was a hard thing to find a younger actor who could do both. The spectrum of feelings and tones that Starfighter needed. I knew it when I met Flynn, but I really knew it when I had Flynn and Ryan in the room together, because their chemistry was so effortless. I'm excited to see that. I had never heard of this Flynn Gray kid before, but considering the fact this is like he's never been in the movie, sometimes all you need is really great chemistry and a really great actor like Ryan to help kind of guide you certainly along the way. But I'm fascinated by how Shawn Levy describes him in this, of like he's just natural in front of the camera. So that's kind of inspiring. He also goes on to say, if I can ever get this, first off, get this ad. Can I get this ad out of the way? Screen Rant is the fucking worst. I swear, dude. With 5 years set after the events of, come on, dude. With the story set 5 years after the events of Rise of Skywalker, Levy explained that the galaxy far away is still recovering from the damage of a devastating war, with no single party fully assuming power after the Battle of Exegol. It's a period of time that's never been on screen in any Star Wars story. And so to create that, to play around and explore what is the future of the galaxy was incredibly fun. Our characters in Starfighter are on the wrong side of the galaxy. It's about these sort of marginalized outsiders who find each other and have a shot at discovering heroism through their actions. It was just something very kind of blue collar, working class, grounded in texture and real to he credits the Francis Ford Coppola's The Outsiders as inspiration that we tried to bring to Star Wars. These characters are doing the best they can in a chaotic galaxy that hasn't been explored. And there is a full interview if you guys want to check it out with Fandango. And then further on, it also looks like he gave another interview to where'd it go? Good Morning America. Come on, bro. Claiming that there's not a central government in charge of the entire galaxy at this point, providing more context about the film's protagonist. He says, this is a moment in the galaxy where there's no sort of governing enforcer or order. And so everyone is just trying to survive. Everyone is just trying to do their best to get by. And Ryan's character, Cade, is from the wrong side of the galaxy. He did not grow up with a silver spoon in his mouth, has a little bit of an edge, a little bit of a working class background, and comes from zero privilege. He goes on an adventure that sort of intersects his fate with the fastest starfighter ever built. So I kind of, look, I kind of appreciate this. I really kind of appreciate this for a couple of reasons. I think as a society right now, we do find ourselves kind of in where almost everybody feels a little bit marginalized, right? I think in some capacity, government has either left us high and dry or has done things to us that have everybody, doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, has us all struggling out there to just kind of survive, right? And so what does a world look like where your government has either failed you or is pretty much non-existent? And this galaxy, with after the past 5 years, it seems as though maybe nobody has really kind of stepped up to reclaim that power, or hasn't really have the support of a big governing body to kind of boost it to be the main focus kind of the galaxy. And so it seems as though everybody is kind of struggling. And so, to have our protagonists kind of feel like an everyday person, kind of like ourselves, being pitted against insurmountable odds, or just that ability to, a lot of people aren't, clearly, like he says, don't have a silver spoon in his mouth, necessarily aren't built up, born into privilege sort of thing. I think this is sort of like, even though he's wearing the Rebel Alliance logo upside down, I mean, this feels like the beginnings of where a Rebel Alliance sort of would form from, right? The idea of everyday working people who have been treated piss poorly, eventually coming together to have some type of revolution within this galaxy to kind of maybe help shape what the focus and the future of this world could potentially be. And if we have somebody like Ryan Gosling's character, I'm kind of curious as to what this mission is, but to be in that position of somebody that really comes from nothing, that's simply trying to get by, but has the backbone and the gravitas to maybe take action when it's needed. All they say is sometimes all you need is just a flicker of hope, right? It's just to light the fire under somebody to start kind of creating waves that might potentially turn into a revolution here. And so to kind of see Cade maybe end up being somebody that has to deliver this child to somebody, or comes into contact with a growing new Jedi order that's maybe trying to help bring some semblance of balance and order back to the world. I am kind of curious as to where this adventure leads them. I find this position significantly different than where we find ourselves after Return of the Jedi, because I think by the end of Return of the Jedi, while yes, you have some remnants of the Empire still out there trying to vie for power, you at least have this new republic, right? Like what the rebels were able to create and build upon to kind of come to aid and immediately kind of put in this new government in the new republic. And it feels like the era of Return of the Jedi is very much the new republic trying to eliminate the remnants of the empire and trying to start building things up from that point. Whereas here, I mean, we literally have killed, like destroyed all governing bodies. And anybody that has that type of power really has not wanted to kind of take its place. I mean, the Rebel Alliance that was in The Last Jedi wind up getting dwindled down to nothingness, to where in The Rise of Skywalker, it's very much like they are a small band of people trying to fight alone until the Battle of Exegol at the end, when they realize they have more allies than they certainly counted on. But 5 years after that, has anybody been able to really take power and kind of guide the galaxy in some sort of way? So this feels like a wild west era for Star Wars, and one that I'm excited to kind of see explored, and what that means for some of these characters that we'll see in Star Wars Starfighter, and really what the future of Star Wars is certainly going to look like from the mind of Dave Filoni, even Simon Kinberg, who is working on a trilogy as well. So I kind of like a breath of fresh air in regards to the direction that they can go, and a fascinating one to kind of see like what factions are out there, that might be kind of causing some problems with no governing body to kind of watch over them, sort of thing. So we'll see how this looks. Kiki and Lucas says they also gave out Starfighter pins. Yes, you did provide me with a Starfighter pin. I was so excited when I saw it. I'm gonna go ahead and put that on my book bag for sure. If I ever go to a Star Wars Celebration, I'm definitely gonna be rocking that pin on my book bag. The Cross on Bones logo is Roy Fockers in Robotech. Oh yeah, I like that. Chaotic Galaxy, is that the same thing as Exegol Outer Regions? I mean, when they talk about coming from the wrong side of the tracks or the wrong side of the galaxy, my first thought is he's from the outer regions. But I think as a whole, it feels like the galaxy is kind of in shambles. The last Jedi, we are the spark that will light the fire that'll burn the First Order down. Yeah, I love that quote. Kiki Luke says, I don't think stakes are really that important for me. It could be smaller and it contains story. Yeah, I don't know what the thread is going to be in here. I think we've got the two actors that, or the three actors that really appeal to me, that I'm curious to see what their roles are going to be. I think Matt Smith is in this movie, along with Mia Goth. I would be interested to see who they play. Would they be like siblings? That would be kind of cool if they're like dark side siblings, or some sort of like alien race characters that are trying to cause problems. That would be pretty dope. And then we got Aaron Pierre, who's going to be in Star Wars Starfighter also, who I'm kind of curious as to who he's going to play. I know Marcelino has been asking for more aliens in Star Wars, so maybe we get Mia Goth and Matt Smith as like evil aliens or whatever the case may be in this. But we'll see how big the stakes are. But yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts in regards to what Star Wars Starfighter director Shawn Levy had to say in regards to the state of the galaxy at this point. Definitely would love to know your guys' thoughts. Next up, guys, we got some big news in regards to the world of Naruto. For those of you who don't know, a Naruto live action movie is certainly set to go ahead and take place. It's being directed none other than by Destin Daniel Cretton himself, fresh off of his success from Spider-Man Brand New Day. I assume that his next stop is this film. We do know that casting has officially been underway this summer. I believe they're supposed to be doing like a worldwide casting call for Naruto, if I'm not mistaken. But this week, we actually wind up getting one of our very first casting announcements. And to some extent, is definitely an interesting one, to say the least. And I'll tell you why. But let's go ahead and bring up this article. This comes to us from The Hollywood Reporter. And even though the casting is not involving Naruto himself, it is, in fact, focusing on the other character, Kakashi. It says here, according to the Hollywood Reporter, Charles Melton in talks to play Kakashi in the Destin Daniel Cretton Naruto movie. This is an exclusive. It says the actor recently landed a nomination for his role in Netflix anthology Beef. You know, I talk so highly about the Netflix series Beef season 1 that, believe it or not, I have not had the opportunity to even check out season 2 yet. And so I'm going to have to do that. I keep hearing great things about season 2. There's some great actors attached to it. I had no idea Charles Melton was in season 2. Wait, was he in season 1 also? Then I'm thinking about it. He looks super familiar to me. Charles Melton, who recently landed an Emmy nomination for his role in the series Beef, is in final negotiations for a key role in the live-action Naruto movie set up over at Lionsgate. Destin Daniel Cretton, who is currently in theaters with Spider-Man Brand New Day, is set to direct the movie based on the manga series. Naruto is the coming-of-age story of a young and enthusiastic ninja named Naruto who wants to grow up to be the leader of his ninja village, but also happens to have the spirit of a nine-tailed demon fox inside of him. A search is underway to find a young actor to play Naruto. Melton is said to be playing Kakashi, the elite ninja mentor figure to the main character and his friends. Kakashi is one of the most popular characters in the long-running and massively popular manga. Melton did break out as a star in the CW series Riverdale, then transition a more prestige fare beginning with Todd Haynes' May-December, where he starred opposite Julianne Moore and Natalie Portman. Wow, that's crazy. The actor is a longtime fan of anime and manga, is also extremely proficient in martial arts. Oh, I didn't know Charles Melton could do martial arts. He has a second-degree black Kwon Do and competed in the Junior Olympics held in Seoul, South Korea, I should say. Very cool. I didn't know Charles Melton was that talented, dude. This is an interesting topic for me, in a sense that if in case people were not paying attention to Charles Melton over the past couple of months, Charles Melton was highly rumored and supposedly in talks to be in the upcoming X-Men movie. So much so that, like, days leading up to San Diego Comic-Con, his name was being thrown out there to play in talks to play Hank McCoy, Beast. And then I think a couple of days, if not like a week or so before D23, there were talks that Charles Melton had backed out of playing the role of Hank McCoy, Beast. Otherwise, he probably would have been on stage at D23 with the rest of the X-Men cast. But there are talks that Charles Melton was up for the role for Hank McCoy as Beast and walked away. And at the time that news dropped, I remember people like, who was Charles Melton's agent? Who's telling this man not to take the role of Hank McCoy in the X-Men? Like, who would not want to be a part of the X-Men franchise? And ladies and gentlemen, while we were all playing checkers, Charles Melton was out here playing chess. My man decided, you know what? After seeing what Destin Daniel Cretton literally just did with not just Shang-Chi, not just Wonder Man, but also Spider-Man Brand New Day, I can totally understand why Charles Melton would be like, you know what? That Naruto movie is looking pretty damn good. Maybe he couldn't do both. Maybe he just could not do both, because X-Men is probably going to start filming relatively soon. And it wouldn't surprise me if Naruto winds up going into production relatively soon as well. So it's probably a case of scheduling conflicts wouldn't have allowed him to do both, and he had to choose one or the over the other. And based off of the fact that I literally have said this before, I remember after watching what Destin Daniel Cretton wind up doing with Shang-Chi, I said that man needs to direct a Dragon Ball movie. Like, he needs to do a Dragon Ball movie, and now he's doing one better in Naruto. This Naruto movie is about to be generational and legendary. And as Charles Melton, someone that clearly is into martial arts also, this seems like a no-brainer of a choice. Naruto over X-Men, I'm not even mad at you, Charles Melton. I think this is a great opportunity because if Naruto is successful, especially with Destin Daniel Cretton attached to it, this could be not only a huge payday, but also a really great like injection of Charles Melton into sort of like just future movies, household names sort of thing. I mean, granted, anybody can argue, yes, X-Men is probably even bigger than Naruto. But I mean, who knows? I don't know. I'm sure some people would say Naruto is probably just even keel with X-Men. I don't follow Naruto like that, but I know how massive of a manga and anime series it certainly is. So again, I got no problems with my man not wanting to play Hank McCoy and be in the X-Men and instead wanting to be a ninja in Naruto. Like, this makes complete sense to me. Again, we were playing checkers. My man was playing chess, and he attached himself to a great fucking opportunity here. And I think this is the right one. And I think this is the right one for a couple of reasons. One, considering the fact that Kakashi is so incredibly popular, you've attached yourself to, like, out of the two popularity, you pick the right character, my guy, because it's one of those things where Beast, I think, is one of those characters, while yes, can have a prominent role. I mean, we saw Nicholas Hoult do that just fine in the previous X-Men movies. But now that we're moving and transition to the MCU, I am kind of curious as to down the line how much of a role will Beast play. That's certainly up for debate. But Kakashi as Naruto in a Naruto movie, yes, man. So I think he picked the right choice here. I'm never going to doubt your agent again, Charles, or your state of mind, my man. Kudos to you. I think this is a great casting choice, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Charles Melton is capable of doing along with Destin Daniel Cretton in a live-action Naruto movie. But I need to know your guys' thoughts. How do you feel about this? Would you have preferred him to have taken the X-Men role, or do you think dropping that and going the Naruto route was certainly the better choice? I certainly think it was, but that's just my opinion. I definitely would love to know your guys' thoughts in regards to that. And last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, for our last topic of the day, video game adaptions have become a massive thing. I feel like people, studios are trying to suck up as much video game IP as and giving us unique takes on some of these characters. And one of them is now going to be Golden Axe, a classic Sega sort of side-scrolling game that I used to be addicted to, especially in the arcades back in the day. But Golden Axe is getting an animated series. That's right, you heard correctly, an animated series. Paramount Plus, and it's going to be premiering relatively soon, according to this, September 16th, so less than a month away. Paramount Plus is going to be dropping its Golden Axe animated series. Not only did they release this banner and a new poster, but they also went ahead and released a trailer for it. I don't know if you guys have had the opportunity to see the Golden Axe trailer. I used to love this game growing up as a kid. I didn't know what to expect in regards to what direction or tone they were going to go with Golden Axe, but this is what they settled on. Let me know what you guys think. Let's go.
In a time before history, in a land of might and magic, when evil rises, heroes rise harder on their trusty purple mutant thingies.
Oh my God, it's them! I'm a huge fan.
3 heroes, Axe, Tyrus, and Gilius, level up to save the kingdom of Uria from the evil giant Death Adder.
To defeat Death Adder, we need an actual plan. We're going to do what we do best. Face a series of progressively harder enemies until we have a big final battle with Death Adder. And then we kill him for good.
Till he's dead. All the way.
Fire magic!
I was hoping I could.
First off, I do love the idea of them using potions like this. I remember just the cool little effects that you would get anytime you would use these potions. I love the look of it.
All the way.
Fire magic!
I was hoping I could join your quest.
Why don't you go first?
Found the trap on the first try!
And so our heroes fight all sorts of stuff.
For Uria! That was for Uria.
You better not be another mini-boss. You better be the final one!
Legendary kid.
Wow.
It's just what us kitty cats do.
I'm so excited I'm gonna throw up.
Because we're us. Sorry, we don't have a group name. We were barely getting along until 8 minutes. Sega!
Yeah, that's the best part of the trailer for me. Sega. The fact that they use Sega as a battle cry. Yo, I love it.
Sega!
Shot first, ask questions later.
What else would you do with an axe?
I don't know!
Golden Axe. Whoa, like the game? Heck yeah. Let's freaking go. Thanks, Paramount.
So yes. So we have ourselves a Golden Axe television series, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. Look, man. Animation, I've got no problem with it being animated. I got no problem with even the animation style if that's the way that they want to go. You know, I don't know how you make a Golden Axe television series, you know, so I'm not going to sit here and act like I've got the key ingredient that would make Golden Axe great. It's just that sometimes I'm tired of like animation having this level of comedy, this level of satire, you know, this is the meta humor type of aspect of it all. Sometimes it feels a little bit too on the nose, especially with like the narrator and some of the really like just corny jokes. Like, oh god, like it makes me kind of roll my eyes to a certain extent, and that's really not the feeling that I want to get when I think of Golden Axe. You know, I mean, you know, how serious do you take the show? You know, when you're creating it, do you not take it that seriously? Sometimes it's just the over the top comedy that, like, I don't mind there being jokes and humor in it, but sometimes it just feels too on the nose. And so for me, sometimes it makes it feel a little bit out of place. And I just I am kind of curious from a story standpoint if the story is decent or not. I'm kind of surprised that there's blood in here. They seem like they're going more mature kind of audience in that regards. The characters I'm definitely open to exploring. You know, I'm curious who the additional side character is that they're kind of lumping into sort of like this main group. But I think Golden Axe is such a simple video game that it really does open itself up to people able to take liberties in regards to how they want to adapt something like that. So I'm not mad at it. I just don't know if it's necessarily the direction I would have gone in regards to it being so comedy heavy and so on the nose in regards to its satire and things like that. But you know, we'll see. I you know, maybe I'll watch an episode or two, see how I'm feeling. If it's something that hooks me, if the humor's not too eye rolling, then maybe I'll give it a shot fully. But this is set to drop relatively soon. Again, this is September 16th for you guys, so less than a month away. But we do have also an article that wind up dropping for over on Entertainment Weekly that's set to give us a little bit more insight in regards to the series itself. Matthew Rise Liam McIntyre charge into Golden Axe animated series, an exclusive first look at the Sega adaptation. So let's get a little bit of a look here. From the moment the battle sorceress Tyrus screams out Sega before charging into battle, you understand the vibe Golden Axe is going for. Mike McMahon from Star Trek Lower Decks and Solar Opposites. Now, look, I've heard great things about Star Trek Lower Decks. They had a lot more seasons than I kind of expected them to. And people that I know that have watched Lower Decks have really enjoyed the story specifically, but also the humor in it. So there is a part of me, and then also Joe Chandler from American Dad and Napoleon Dynamite animated show. So the creative team behind it seems capable, seems capable of doing more than just over the top humor. As seen in the exclusive first look trailer and photos, the new, more modern take leans heavily into meta comedy in this realm of swords and sorcery. He says, we're going to do what we do best. Tyrus starts off before laying out exactly how the show and the game works. Face a series of progressively harder enemies until we have a big final battle with Death Adder, and then we kill him for good. Emmy winner Matthew Rice, who's experienced a resurgence due to his hit show Widow's Bay, plays Gilius Thunderhead, described as a grumpy battle dwarf with exceptionally poor hygiene and a chip on his shoulder. Liam McIntyre, the Spartacus veteran now playing the title hero, plays Axe Battler, a barbarian warrior with a strict code of honor and sweet golden retriever demeanor. Jury Duty's Lisa Gilroy, who plays Tyrus, is considered deadly in a fight and even deadlier with her sharp wit. Together, they make the three playable warriors from the arcade game. As far as the additional gentleman that's added to this group, Danny Putty, a recurring actor in the voiceover space, now comes into Golden Axe picture as Hampton Squibb, described as a naive and inexperienced first-time adventurer who has dreamt of questing his entire life. They did drop some exclusive images here too. So this is the gang in general. The gentleman with the small sword, I would assume, is Hampton Squibb, first-time adventurer. The main plot of the animated series follows the reunion of Gilius Axe and Tyrus to take down Death Adder, who just won't seem to stay dead. Their mission becomes complicated by the arrival of Hampton, who wants to join their quest, but remains widely unprepared for the adventure ahead. It says attempts to adapt Golden Axe does date back to 2014, though it's only now that we've finally seen one reach the screen. In 2024, the animated series received a 10-episode order from Comedy Central, but the show will now be premiering exclusively on Paramount Plus. So this was originally supposed to be for Comedy Central, according to that. So yeah. Nice little first look. Again, I don't necessarily know if the meta comedy is necessarily going to work for me in all aspects of it, but if there's more appeal to this show than just the humor, and hopefully in regards to like an actual formidable storyline, then I might be on board with it. I do like some of the images in here. This one looks pretty cool to me. I love like sort of like the sort of background painting kind of design here, all the skulls and stuff. So there's definitely going to be some dark elements involved in this, but it's certainly balanced out with the meta humor. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, guys, Golden Axe, the new animated series, set to go ahead and drop September 16th. Let me know if you guys have any, if you're fascinated with this series or willing to give it a shot. Again, I might watch the first couple of episodes and see how I feel about it. Like mentioned before, Golden Axe being turned into animated series is kind of a bold move. How many people actually know what Golden Axe is besides 90s kids? I mean, that's true. And I think I think, Golden Axe again is such a simple video game. I don't necessarily even know the lore behind it. I've always just saw it as like a side scroller button smasher, just chop them down kind of game. I can't really remember the lore behind Golden Axe. But it is one of those lesser known, unless you were growing up in the 90s. Yeah, it's kind of one of those lesser known games. But yeah, maybe this is probably what maybe appeals to the idea of being able to adapt it, being able to take maybe that meta comedy and freshen it up for a more modern era, and see how people can digest it that way. So we'll see. I did play Kiki and Luke. I did play Golden Axe game, and I have interest in these type of shows. I'm a big Dragon Lance fan, but are kids going to be into this? I mean, there's a lot of blood, so I don't even necessarily know this. It feels like it's a skewed more adult oriented, but I don't know what the rating of it is certainly going to be. Matthew Reese, thank you, appreciate it. He is also in the Americans, which is a great show. All right, cool. But yeah, guys, continue to let me know some of your thoughts. Before we get to our next segment, Kiki and Luke says, if I'm an actor, I will take the one that will give me the most money when I go onto the convention circuit. I mean, I guess talking about picking which role. What do you think about Indy choosing X-Men over Heat 2? Well, I'm actually hearing that that she could potentially still be in the running for Heat 2. That her name is part of a short list of actresses that have gone out for some of the roles of Heat. So I have heard different things that she passed up Heat 2 to go into X-Men, and that she's also in the running. I don't know what that means from a scheduling perspective, right? Like if Charles Melton had to pick or choose Naruto over X-Men, maybe because of scheduling conflict. I am kind of curious as to how soon Heat 2 would be going in front of cameras, as I think that's really going to be dependent on, can she juggle both roles, right? Could she do X-Men or Heat 2? I mean, look, I think Heat 2 is great from like just, if we're going like cinematic, being able to work with some just like incredible talent behind the camera, like really big names, and attach yourself to. Heat 2, it seems like an incredible opportunity. But Indy is still super young in her career. I think she will have a long career in the sense of opportunities like that will afford itself later, or potentially could. The idea of being attached to X-Men, if she had to choose and she decided to choose X-Men to play Rogue, I mean, just look at the reception of what she's been getting being cast as Rogue. And I don't think you get that same level of reception from being cast in something like Heat 2. I think she's legit secured herself work for like the next 10 years. You know what I mean? From the idea of like, look, you could be great in Heat 2, but that also in turn, I mean, look, granted, if you're great in Heat 2, you're probably always going to be on people's minds to want to be a part of other things too. But I think because of what she was capable of doing in something like Obsession and really putting herself on the map, even if she does put herself in there as Rogue for the X-Men, I still think prestige level opportunities will certainly come her way because of her range and what she's capable of doing as an actress. So I don't falter, but the idea of like, I think if there is a missed opportunity, some of the big names attached to Heat 2, man, I would love to be a part of that cast, just from like a learning ability and being able to rub shoulders with people that have been, brilliant for years. That feels like a missed opportunity to me, but I wouldn't even be mad. I wouldn't even be mad. My convention circuit question was related to your Naruto actor. Do you think he would have more interest in the convention circuit as Naruto, Ninja, or X-Men? I don't know. I don't know. I say that because I'm kind of curious as to, because like for me, it's not every day that I see, or at least when Avengers were popular, um, I don't remember really seeing a lot of Avengers on the convention circuit unless it was big like D23 or San Diego Comic-Con stuff. I don't necessarily know if the convention circuit is even necessarily like on their mind when they take these particular roles. I think he would be open to either or. Keegan Luke says Mickey Madison passed on Starfighter and chose the Facebook sequel instead. That could be a huge financial mistake. Yeah, it could be. It could be. But look, to be fair, based off of where the state of Star Wars is at the time, was Mickey Madison asked to be as part of Star Wars Starfighter before Ryan Gosling? Because if I'm Mickey Madison and I turned it down and then I come to find out that Ryan Gosling's attached to Starfighter, then yeah, I might be I might be a little bit upset. But again, I don't know what role it could have been. It could have been a smaller role, and maybe she felt that doing a different movie would be better for her. But with all the momentum right now behind Star Wars Starfighter and people's excitement towards it, yeah, it does feel like a missed opportunity for sure. But we'll see how the movie itself turns out to be. But yeah, guys, let me know some of your thoughts. With that out of the way, I think you guys know what time it is.
And now, everybody, it is time for live viewer questions.
And we're going to get into our live viewer questions portion of the show. If you ever want to submit a live viewer question over, how do you go about doing so? Well, let me go ahead and show you. So every Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening, I will go ahead and make a live viewer question post. All you have to do is go over to our YouTube channel, as you see here, and click on this post tab. You see that little post tab right there? We're going to click on it. And voila, live viewer questions. And we've got 9 questions set up here for today. Let me sort these out here. And we'll tackle some of your guys' questions today. We got Pegsy in the house. What's up, Pegsy? All right. I was thinking about gaming franchises that haven't made the jump to film or TV yet. And I came up with a list of titles that have massive potential for a live action or animated series adaptation. I'd like to get your thoughts on them. Comic Zone, let me actually bring these up visually. Comic Zone video game. Ooh. Unmatched potential for a highly stylized live action or a hybrid miniseries with modern CGI. A show could seamlessly lean into trapped inside a comic book concept using moving panels, sketch live transitions, and heavy fourth wall breaks. Yeah, that sounds pretty dope. I do remember playing Comic Zone. I did love that. Visually, it's really stunning. If anything, if we're gonna do like a movie, a series or something like that, I would definitely get the Scott Pilgrim versus the World creative team behind it if they could. There's even a little bit of like Last Action Hero kind of stuff involved in here. That would be a nice little blend. Also, the idea of from the real world being trapped in the movie or being trapped in the comic book style type of thing sounds really appealing. I love that one. I love that one. Def Jam Vendetta, Fight for New York. Expanding this into a serialized animated drama would be incredible. Following a rising street fighter navigating D-Mob's underground empire, provides a built-in structure filled with turf wars, high-stake tournaments, and gritty portrayals. Def Jam Vendetta is actually one that I would love to see in live action. I would love to see more a live action version of that. Maybe not so much the animated side of things. But definitely live action for that one. Chrono Trigger, widely considered one of the greatest time traveling narratives ever written, tracking a ragtag group across the eras. That should be an animated series, a high-end animated series using Akira Toriyama's iconic style. Yes, please. Yes, please. Serve that on a platter for me. I'll eat that shit up in a minute. Eternals Champion, a fighting game boasting some of the best, edgiest. Oh, you know what? I think I had this Eternals game. Eternal Champions. Is that what it was called? Yes, I do remember the character design specifically from this one. It used to be a pain in the ass. This game was a pain in the ass to me, but I played it all the time. Boasting some of the best, edgiest lore in the 90s, where an entity pulls individuals who died unjustly right before their deaths from across history to battle for a second chance. This will make for a fantastic dark anthology style animated series. And then Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, a sprawling crime saga tracking CJ as he returns to 1992 to rebuild his gang and fight corrupt federal agencies. This practically writes itself as a live action pure piece. Yes, give me Grand Theft Auto San Andreas and Def Jam Vendetta as live actions. I don't know how I feel about the Eternal Champions one, if I'm being honest with you, but the Chrono Trigger as a animation, absolutely. And same thing with Comic Zone, absolutely. I love both of those ideas, Pexy, for sure. Number 2, the voice of Bart Simpson, Nancy Cartwright, has voiced Bart since the family's debut on the Tracy Ullman Show in 1987, sharing her 2 cents on when the animated sitcom might end. She has revealed that she thinks The Simpsons will finish its run. Nancy says she thinks The Simpsons will end, and it's sooner than you think. That might sound like a lot, but The Simpsons recently wrapped its 37th season and will return for its 38th, which means Cartwright expects the show to be finished by the spring of 2029. Cartwright later clarified that she's very open to continuing the show beyond season 40. If everyone stays alive, what do you think about her comments? I mean, look, the fact that The Simpsons are still relevant and still going. Like, I don't even know what the viewership is for The Simpsons these days, if I'm being honest. So I don't know how great the ratings are, what their viewership numbers are like. But if people continue to keep coming back for it, it makes sense. I could see an ending to it at a 40th year. But if you're not going to, I will say this. If you're not going to end it before the 40th, like at the 40th season, then I say keep going until Nancy or some of the other big titled voice actors pass. Like the moment one of them passes, I think that's like, all right, let's wrap this up. You know, that's crazy that she's been doing this for almost 40 years. That's crazy. So my thing would be either wrap up at year 40 or keep going until some of the big name voice actors for this show pass away. And then once that happens, then call it quits. Kiki and Luca. Love live viewer questions. I finally saw the end of Oak Street, and I had some issues with it. First, Ewan McGregor's American accent really took me out of the movie. I can hear his native Scottish accent, and it took a good half an hour before I stopped paying attention to it. The CGI and special effects are excellent. I feel like it could have been a blockbuster movie. Anne Hathaway was great as usual, and the kids also had great performances. Just the story and directing wasn't very good. I think it could have been fantastic if it had been better and more skilled hands. Can you imagine this movie with Spielberg directing it, for example? Next, I saw La La Land 10th anniversary in Dolby. I saw the movie 10 years ago, and I also purchased it, but seeing it on the big screen in Dolby was astonishing. The colors and the sound were marvelous. It's actually a very deep movie with many different interpretations. I was wondering what you thought about the movie and if you and your girlfriend had considered watching it in Dolby theaters. Thank you. So it seems like when it comes to the end of Oak Street, Kiki and Luca, you and I both share the same sentiments about that film. Writing and directing for me it just didn't work. I felt like I watched a movie full of empty calories. I think the film does great from its performances, along with even its soundtrack and its visual effects. But as far as something I can really sink my teeth into from a story perspective, it really was a lackluster. I would be curious to know what you would have given it as your official grade. I think me and Stuart both ended up giving it a B, but even I felt like my B was kind of gracious, and that really the B comes in regards to how other categories truly performed for the movie itself. And so I would be kind of curious as to where you landed score wise, if you would have given that movie a C or whatever the case may be. I'm kind of curious. As far as La La Land goes, when I watched La La Land, I remember loving it. It is a movie that I have wanted to revisit that I just haven't over time. I'm a big Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling fan. Like, I love Ryan Gosling to death. I'll watch anything that man is in, along with Emma Stone. I think she's just that good. And I think chemistry wise, they're brilliant on screen together. I wouldn't mind seeing it again. I over time, I have definitely become a fan of musicals. I also want to see West Side Story, the most recent one by Steven Spielberg. I still want to see West Side Story. I haven't had the opportunity to see that one yet. But if it's in Dolby, especially with the color scheme and things like that for La La Land, maybe it is one that I might revisit. I'll see how the girlfriend feels about it, and I'll check. I'll check to see. I did see it on my AMC's list, so I'll see what the timing and scheduling of it is like, and if I'll get the opportunity to see it in the big screen. But I'll definitely try and get the girlfriend to certainly come with me. Marcelino, I don't know if I got all of your question. I'm going to come back to yours, Marcelino. I'm going to try and navigate it through my I'm going to try and navigate it through my phone and see if there was more to. Oh, it doesn't look like there was more to your story. It looks like that was it. All right. So Marcelino says, many say that Hal Jordan is the new Cyclops, where Fox sidelined Cyclops for Wolverine. Many feel the same way for Hal. No. If they want to feel that way, that's fine. If they want to feel that way, that's fine. I would just say this. I feel like episode 1 of Lanterns gave us more Hal Jordan than we ever got of Cyclops. Like, and I think by the time we get done with this 8th episode, I think what Kyle Chandler will have done with Hal Jordan is leaps and bounds over anything James Marsden has been capable of doing with Cyclops, or even Ty Sheridan was able to do with what they gave him for Cyclops. Now, if we're talking about the idea that they're like sidelining Hal Jordan in the sense of like just not making him the main focus, like how Wolverine became the main focus, and maybe Jon Stewart might have, is going to maybe become the main focus. I would even say Guy Gardner is a bigger main focus right now than even that of Hal Jordan, based off of how connected he is overall. So, I can see why people would say that they're sidelining him for somebody like a Jon Stewart or even a Guy Gardner. I get it, but I think, again, we're just one episode in. I have a feeling that by the time that we get to episode 8, I think Hal Jordan would have still done more in his time on screen than Cyclops ever truly has. And I think his impact will still be, regardless of who takes over the main mantle of Green Lantern going forward. I think Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan has done more for the Hal Jordan character and helping push the Green Lantern story forward more than Cyclops has ever done in regards to an X-Men movie. So I can't necessarily agree with that so much. because he doesn't seem, Hal Jordan doesn't seem sidelined to me yet. Hal Jordan seems to be the main character of this show, and Cyclops has never been really the main character of anything, you know. And so this feels like a Hal Jordan show to me so far. So far. Jessica Friedman, before the Power Ranger reboot was canceled, had casting begun, and would you like to see a Futurama movie someday? I don't believe so. I don't think casting ever really started. I am kind of curious as to, there was a time period where there were names that were being teased and thrown around for a long time, like so, you know, some people from like some Disney shows might have been named or whatever the case may be. But I don't believe casting ever officially really ever got off the ground. You know, I think based off of where they were in regards to their element, their development, that Power Ranger reboot series always felt conceptual, like it was still a concept that hadn't really been fully fleshed out from a story perspective to even really know who you would want to be cast. They might have had maybe their eyes on people, a short list of like people they would have loved to have approached, but I don't believe they were ever approached or ever really brought in for auditions. It feels like the Power Ranger reboot was always stuck in that early development conceptual stage, to where full on scripts for like I wouldn't be surprised if episode 1 wasn't even like if they ever had a final script for episode 1. You know, they might have had an outline, but maybe never even like a fully realized script, if I'm being honest with you, the way that it sounds. So no, I don't believe casting had begun. Would you like to see a Futurama movie someday? That's probably more of a Stuart question than me. I don't really watch Futurama, so in this regards, I would probably say no, unless it's like a straight to streaming movie, then maybe like a Hulu movie, maybe. AJ and the Morphin Grid, before it began, canon or non-canon? Originally featured as a DVD special peek preview into the next season, Power Rangers SPD had this hidden episode before it began. Clearly takes place immediately after the defeat of Mesogog, when Ethan and Kira encountered a mysterious boulder serving as the first physical representation of the Morphing Grid. Acting as a precursor to the subsequent time-traveling crossovers, this special can be viewed as the same way as the Wormhole episode, functioning alongside history as the franchise's first time traveler crossovers from the Dino Thunder trio memories were wiped to preserve their futures, with the SPD team even wiping their own memories at the end of Wormhole. To be fair, after removing Dino Thunder team's memories twice, because Ethan and Kira had already been Rangers for an entire year, seeing a glimpse of the future SPD team felt like just another Tuesday, explaining why they never realized upon meeting them that they had technically already counted them before. Does this seamless timeline alignment ultimately elevate the controversial special into official canon? You know what? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. I don't think I've ever seen that before, but now I kind of want to watch that special sneak peek preview. If it's on the DVD, then yes. I would say so. We got Fed in the house. Very nice. Thank you, Fed. Appreciate you coming through. Let's see here. Blossom, what do you think the next Kamen Rider is going to be like for this year? Kind of stopped watching since Geats. The rest after Saber got confusing and a tad weird. Are they still doing Kamen Rider? I don't even know, Blossom. I don't even know what they've done, what this current season even looks like. I haven't even heard if they've gotten like their trademarks yet for Kamen Rider. I've been so out of the tokusatsu world. It's unbelievable, man. Haven't had the opportunity to check out any of the Project Red. Have you checked out the Project Red stuff, Blossom? It sounds like it's been a minute since you've watched Kamen Rider 2. So I don't know. I don't even know what like the last 2 seasons of Kamen Rider have been to even give an opinion on that. We got David in the house. What's up, David? What do you think about how Fast and the Furious evolved from street racing into a massive global phenomenon? According to Jordana Brewster, the cast first realized the film had deeply woven themselves into people's lives when they attended the international premiere for the fourth and fifth installments. She noted this powerful connection resonated with audiences worldwide, even as the franchise shifted from grounded street racing to high stakes international heists. Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal. It feels like a rarity to be able to have that opportunity to start off a franchise as one thing, and then be given the honor to be around long enough to realize, like, maybe we need to change the formula to kind of keep it relevant, and turning it into these big bombastic action pictures, unlike anything that was really out at the moment. Really works. Sexy women, beautiful cars, a lot of testosterone. Yeah, man. It's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. And then last but not least, we got Doomsday in the house. What's up, Doomsday? I always appreciate seeing you pop up in here. Should every superhero cinematic universe be required to build up to something bigger? Or can it just be a fun little universe where superheroes can do their own thing and fight bad guys? I ask this because a common complaint that I've seen relating to James Gunn is about how the DC universe doesn't feel like it's building up to anything bigger. And some even brought up the MCU as an example. But one person replied to that comment, and it caught my attention. It was a really good point, and I actually agree with it. The person said, not every superhero cinematic universe has to build up to something bigger. Sometimes it can be a fun little universe where heroes roaming around to fight bad guys, and pointed out how the MCU is somewhat of a bad example of how to do a cinematic universe, as it made feel every cinematic universe is required to build up to something bigger when it really doesn't need to. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think it needs to. I don't see how the MCU is a bad example of anything. I think, if anything, I think the MCU is a blueprint for success that no other studio has been capable of matching yet. I think the execution of the MCU was relatively brilliant in regards to the idea that they took their time. And granted, while their first initiation into that world wasn't this idea of a bigger scheme of things, a bigger plan of things, they dropped a couple of first movies that were relatively successful, but they teased the potential of what could come in those films. And they took that, and after success, then they really changed course, or had that mentality of, let's build to something bigger here. And I think when you depart from the blueprint that the MCU set forth, then I do think maybe you have a little bit of a taller hill to climb. I look at James Gunn's DCU, and while he may say, like, they're not building towards a big thing, I would say your Superman and Supergirl are building towards a bigger thing. Maybe not a bigger thing in the sense of, like, they're teasing what the big threat is, but those two films are clearly connected and building towards a crossover event of some type in Man of Tomorrow. We don't really know the end game yet for Lanterns, or if what happens in Lanterns will have any ramifications of what happens in something like Man of Tomorrow, even though Jon Stewart's supposed to be in that. I don't know if that's from a storyline perspective or just the idea that Jon Stewart is the Green Lantern of this universe, so of course he's going to be in something like Man of Tomorrow. I don't know if the Marvel formula is the end all be all of things, but if you say we're building a cinematic universe, to me that means connectivity. If you want to say, hey, we're going to make DCU films, cool. We're going to make DC movies, cool. But when you throw the term cinematic universe out there, to me that means all the pieces are connected. At least to me, that's what it means. And I think anybody that's really tried to divert away from that formula has not met the greatest success, or thinks that there are shortcuts that can be taken that it may not necessarily work. Now, so I do think while it's cool that the DC is laying the groundwork in the sense of, look, we're getting Clayface. That's not really connected to anything. Although I would say Clayface is probably connected a little bit to Creature Commandos in that regards. But as far as like building up towards something, yeah, I guess the DCU isn't, it's not really a big outside of Man of Tomorrow, that is an event film. That's kind of like a Civil War kind of crossover event. So in terms, it is kind of building towards something. But as far as like the wrapping up of a phase to like the one big bad, I don't necessarily know if that's the route that they're kind of going. You know, I think you can maybe experiment with some things, but I will say I don't agree with the idea that MCU is somewhat of a bad example of how to do a cinematic universe, because it's legit been the only example of a cinematic universe that has gotten it right. I mean, if we're talking from the first Iron Man to the very end of something like Phase 3 and Endgame, I don't know how much better of an example you could really set. I think if you're going to go outside of the box, though, you have to have a really well laid out plan and execution in regards to that. And I just think people that haven't followed that plan, it hasn't gone very well for them. What are your overall thoughts on James Gunn is currently handling the DCU? Here's my take. I personally feel like he's doing just fine. The decision to have Supergirl as a second DCU movie instead of featuring a well-known big three has raised some interesting points. While many fans might express a desire for Batman and Wonder Woman to take the spotlight again, it's worth considering the broader context. Wonder Woman has already had 2 films, and opinions on their success vary, and with only one being widely regarded as strong. Moreover, the Batman Part 2 currently in production, there are lingering narratives that can complement the creative landscape. But by focusing on Supergirl, the DCU is taking a step in the fresh direction, creating an opportunity for new storytelling that diverges from the established norms. In my opinion, launching every new superhero universe with the same iconic heroes could risk repetitiveness over time. Instead, this new approach can navigate the franchise, can invigorate the franchise and introduce audiences to different characters, offering a chance to build a unique identity. Ultimately, the success of these projects will hinge on their quality, making it vital for the next release to resonate with viewers. I completely agree with you, Doomsday. I completely agree with you. I mean, we already had the Batman with the Matt Reeves, the Batman, right? So the idea of like wanting to release a Batman movie while concurrently already having a great Batman movie out there in Robert Pattinson, that's a difficult one. So you probably really want to take some time to allow both of those versions of Batman to breathe a little bit. So I got no problem with Brave and the Bold maybe being pushed down the line a little bit, so having something happen later. Same thing with Wonder Woman, right? We literally came off of 1984. It didn't leave the best impressions in people's mouths. So the idea of like taking our time to build up to something like Wonder Woman, to me, was just fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with the idea of having a Supergirl movie. I think the fault and the issue with Supergirl was maybe, I thought Craig Gillespie was going to be a great director for Supergirl. I mean, based off of his previous work and what he's done, he's a more than capable director. But trust me when I say, when I found out my man didn't even read The Woman of Tomorrow, I mean, utilizing generative AI in certain circumstances, I eventually come to realize, seeing the making of this movie, how kind of a bit of a disconnect there certainly was with Greg Gillespie as a director, and I'm someone that definitely advocated for him and thought he would be great for this role in Supergirl, and he just unfortunately wasn't. You know, I am just from a vision standpoint, I am kind of curious to see what that script for Supergirl might have looked like, because I have a feeling the script is probably better than what the end result of it was on the big screen. And so maybe this is a case of not maybe picking the correct director or creatives attached to a project, right? Like, I mean, we got Creature Commandos, which I really thoroughly enjoyed. Peacemaker season 2, not as good as the first season, if you ask me, but an enjoyable, decent season for sure. Enjoyable Superman movie that I think really captured the imagination of a lot of people. Really excited for David Cornsweet as Superman. Lanterns is off to a really hot start right now. We'll see what the momentum behind that is. Clayface coming out of nowhere, not even necessarily part of the slate, but something that I think people are really excited for, because one, it's horror, two, it's taking a really big creative swing in here. And I've been hearing wonderful things about it behind the scenes. So, you know, I do think the DCU is in a good place. I think they're taking creative risks. They're taking big swings. I think even something like, you know, we got Man of Tomorrow that I think people are really excited for. Jimmy Olsen, if done right, can have a really fresh take to the comic book genre. It seems as though they have a really good creative team behind them and store that they certainly want to tackle. So I have a belief in something like Jimmy Olsen. So it's really like, to me, in my eyes, the only hiccup is Supergirl. But if Supergirl isn't a flop, I don't necessarily know if we're even having this conversation, right? If other projects behind the scenes, I think if there is anything I can be critical of James Gunn for, it's the announcement of so many projects that are now fallen by the wayside. It's giving Kathleen Kennedy vibes here, you know. Something in the sense of, like, I know he said, like, if a movie is not greenlit or a show is not if the show or the movie doesn't have a great script, we're not going to greenlight it. So my thing would just be, don't announce it until it's ready to be greenlit. And I know sometimes that's harder to do than say, because you could be working on something behind the scenes and somebody gets a whiff of what you're creating and they immediately put it out there to the world to let people know that this thing is in development. And so there's an immediate expectation of, if you announce it in development, it's gotta happen. And when it doesn't happen and it falls by the wayside, then that's a bad look. And I'm sure there are certain things that James Gunn does not even want out there for people to even know about, because of that fear of announcing things without necessarily having any form of groundwork or, you know, really great footing under you to even develop it to the point of being greenlit. You know, he's had issues with getting the Authority off the ground, Waller off the ground, all these things that were announced prematurely that are now kind of struggling. Where's Swamp Thing, right? So I think when Supergirl doesn't live up to expectations, people then start to look at things in hindsight and be like, well, Authority didn't make it either. Neither did Waller. This feels like a sinking ship sort of thing. And it could really change the narrative around for things. So I think that's what's really biting James Gunn in the ass right now, is just the narrative. But I think James Gunn, for the most part, has been handling the DCU well. I would like him, you know, if I'm being honest, to stop making movies. I know that that's crazy to say, but like, as a co-CEO and somebody that's in charge of the creative side, you know, having to do that while also writing and directing movies and also balancing out the quality of other things, that's my worry in regards to where is James Gunn's focus. And so after something like Man of Tomorrow, and that's a big if James Gunn decides to certainly stay around, then I think he should stop focusing on directing and writing or at least eliminate one of those things and really focus on just fleshing out the DCU from a creative standpoint, and coming up with a true game plan and properly vetting the creators that you're attaching to these particular projects. But overall thoughts on, I think he's been doing a pretty good job. I mean, outside of, like I said, the premature announcements and what happened with Supergirl, I think all the other DCU projects have been more than fine and enjoyable for me. And I'm looking forward to seeing how the rest of this DCU project certainly continues. But yeah, not perfect, but I think he's doing a relatively good job. All right. I think that's all of our live viewer questions. I will tap into some. Let me just refresh this one more time, though, just to make sure. I had 9 comments. I just want to make sure I still have 9 comments. Okay, just make sure I didn't miss anything. Let me get into some live viewer questions here before we go. B is fair. I think I felt it was a wasted opportunity. Could have been fantastic. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. Kiki and Luca talking about La La Land. Ryan Gosling's best performance ever. I'll probably agree with that. Kiki and Luca, people are saying Hal is going to be Parallax. Listen, I've been putting out this theory the moment they announced a Lantern show and the age of Hal. You know, one of the things that, like, if we are talking about building up to anything, what I've always wanted to see built up to that we haven't seen in live action is the 0 Hour storyline. And I know Marcelino's going to be like, people hated the storyline in the 90s for DC. Nobody wants 0 Hour. Look, I've seen Crisis a fucking bajillion times. All right, done in live action. Like I get it already. All right, I've seen Crisis done so many times. A cool twist to that would be 0 Hour, and Parallax plays a significant role in that. Look, ever since they announced, I'm telling you, ever since they announced Lanterns, this has been my theory. The idea of Hal turning into Parallax. I think that there are certain things that are teased in here that's potential. If you watch the Lanterns logo, it starts off with like a yellow circle, and then it like opens up to like the Lanterns ring and the Lanterns logo. There's some hints of yellow in there, a little yellow greenish, a little bit, especially with the concept of fear being such a big pivotal role in the show. I think the idea of Sinestro playing a significant role as Hal's prisoner in here, the OA Guardians clearly being worrisome of what did Hal Jordan learn and pick up from Sinestro that maybe isn't something that the Guardians themselves feel is the safest thing for Hal to, like, some of his trainings for Hal, you know? So like there clearly is this fear that Hal is tapping into something, whether that be darker or he doesn't have all his bearings about him, sort of thing, that could potentially be posing as a bigger threat at some point in time. So I would love them to go down the Parallax route if they wanted to. We'll see where they go, though. We'll see where they go. Apparently, the show is going to be more than one season. The first episode viewership was good. Lanterns had 9.3 million viewers in the first 3 days. Yeah, I heard it was more than like The Penguin, and maybe more than, there was another show that they highlighted that it was House of the Dragon. I can't remember, but it came in with some big fucking numbers. But yeah, right now the plan is, I believe I even heard Chris Mundy talk about the idea that they are doing outlines for season 2 right now. So they are contemplating the idea of moving forward with a season 2, and I hope so. Kiki and Lucas says the issue with Supergirl was that the movie wasn't very good. James Gunn has made some good Guardians movies. Otherwise, he's very mid. Not sure how he got such a big job. Supergirl is an epic failure. Well, you know, I think James Gunn's got some pretty good movies under his belt, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just go into his IMDb here real quick. You know, I think James Gunn, based off of how much he's worked with Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige. And his tenure working with the Guardians, I mean, he was really the man that helped shape sort of the direction for the cosmic side of things. He knocked it out of the park with an incredible trilogy. He had the Suicide Squad movie, which I was a fan of. The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, along with those other movies. He's got Slither under his belt. I thought there was another movie, but maybe I'm tripping. Let me look at something here. I don't want to see producer, writer. Peacemaker, Superman, Creature Commandos. Before that, though, the Suicide Squad, Guardians, the Belcope Experiment, Movie 43, Super, Slither. He did the Scooby-Doo movies. He was the writer of the Dawn of the Dead that Zack Snyder wind up doing, right? You know, people give Zack Snyder a lot of credit for Dawn of the Dead. That movie was actually written by James Gunn. The two live-action Scooby-Doo movies. So he's worked on some stuff before. So I can see why he would have been, and that's just from a writing perspective, but I can see why he would have been sort of offered the job, at least based off of like other producers out there in regards to like CEOs and creatives. It's a hard seat to fill for sure. We'll see by the end of James Gunn's run, though, how well he's handled this. And if that role of CEO is maybe too much for him, and maybe he's better as a filmmaker than he is a CEO director. But we'll see. But yeah, guys, that will do it for today's episode. Thank you, everybody that certainly showed up here today and certainly participated in live viewer questions or even just the live chat in general. So tomorrow I will be doing, so tonight is Lanterns. Everybody check out episode 2 of Lanterns later on tonight. Tomorrow on the docket, we do have Let's Talk Movies episode of our Monday movie matinee show. It'll probably just be myself, but I'll definitely will be talking the Tony movie, and then maybe one other movie if I get the opportunity to go out later on today. So I may be doing the Tony movie and one other one. And then on Tuesday, we will be doing our Lanterns live review for you guys. So join us Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time as we talk episode 2 of Lanterns. And then throughout the rest of the week, if there's any other big news or trailers that drop that feel worthy about talking about, we'll definitely drop them throughout the week. And then, of course, we'll certainly be back next Sunday for you guys at noon Central Time. Just a reminder, with football season set to begin here, I think like the second week of September, we will be changing our going live date to 11 a.m. once football starts. So just a reminder for you guys in that regards. But other than that, man, that's going to do it for me here today. I'll certainly see you guys later on in the week. But do me a big favor, as always, guys. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.